Christ.
You feeling better this time?
Oh yeah, I'm a lot less sick and a lot more awake. Which is probably good, because we've got a lot of shit to talk about today.
Like I said, Dustin, we're going to go record for 2 hours.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it's that long. It's mostly going to be, like, the first two. Our third's not going to have a whole lot to be said, honestly. Who do you want to start with?
Junko in quotation marks.
Okay. Thanks for narrowing that down, considering she's literally all three of these fucking people.
Junko Enoshima, the ultimate faction niche, though. As you see her in Chapter 1.
Christ. Oh.
I was thinking we should probably do, like, a different, like, format, like how we usually do with, like... Yeah, this works for, like, all the other cast members, but for, like, Mastermind specifically, we should, like, break it down a little bit more.
Oh, well, that's why it's a Mastermind episode, is because we have to break things down a little differently, especially in the context of, like, clues that they're the Mastermind, and, like, foreshadowing and, like, setup stuff, you know, like, all the little hints and all the little things they do and say and how their plan overall worked. Like, there's a lot of different things to talk about than the rest of the cast, so... I will say, on the topic of different format, I was considering that we do this entire episode changing personalities every 3 minutes, just to show everyone how fucking annoying it is.
I will fucking kill myself before the 30-minute mark.
I was heavily considering doing it for at least the first couple minutes, and then, like, just not doing it for the... And then being like, okay, now let's get serious.
No. I'm not doing that. I will mute you, and I will just let you just vent that shit out.
Coward. Oh, God. Welcome to Nonstop Debate, everybody.
You would lose in that battle, by the way, Dylan.
What battle?
Changing personalities.
Have you met me?
Have you heard my voice acting work?
No.
You fat bastard, how the fuck do you not know anything about my voice acting credentials? What the fuck is wrong with you, you fat piece of shit?
Oh my god, is that Jeremiah with a slightly higher octave in his voice? Dude, that's insane. How did you do that?
I followed Junko Enoshima's advice and did the exact same thing.
Oh god. I forgot to tell you before the show too, though. I don't think we're gonna do an ego theater this episode.
Oh hell no! Hell no!
We have way too much to talk about. It's just gonna add an extra unnecessary like 15 minutes to the video.
Considering how we described Samugi's plan in their fucking
Yeah, you guys remember the meta writing video back at the beginning? Yeah.
An hour and a half of it was us describing Samugi's plan.
Yeah, most of that runtime was devoted to I literally had to go put chapters in that video, just so it's like, if you just want to watch it for like an entire discussion, that it's literally like it's like 4 podcasts put into one episode. That's how long that shit is.
But goddamn, was it fun to talk about?
Yeah. Yeah. Mastermind episode today, boys. We made it.
It's been a long time coming.
Christ. I have both been excited and terrified for this episode.
Why terrified?
'Cause, I don't know. The fandom fucking loves this character.
Oh, and we got some choice words.
I don't wanna spend the whole time bashing Junko.
No.
If you guys have been listening this long, you probably know that we're not huge fans of Junko Enoshima. I do have things about her that I like.
Yeah, same here.
Of course, we're also going to be talking about Mukuro and MONOKUMA today. We kind of mashed them all into one episode. Mukuro just because she doesn't really warrant... She doesn't have enough about her in this game to warrant discussing in her own episode.
She was disguised as someone else.
MONOKUMA we debated giving his own episode to, but I felt it would be better to just lump him with Junko.
Right.
And then I remembered Mukuro existed after I made that decision. I was like, oh, I guess we could just throw her in too.
That way, when we get around to Danganronpa 2, we can also put Uzume and with the Mastermind episode, or would we put Uzume with Chiaki?
Yeah, I think we. Oh no! We split it. I think this is the only time that Monokuma and Junko are going to share an episode, because I think for Danganronpa 2 our plan is that we're going to pair Usami/Monomi with Monokuma, and then the Mastermind episode is going to consist of Junko 2.0 and Kamakura.
Right.
So,
well, I know we're definitely going to split it apart at V3, because those are two different parties.
V3 is going to consist, I think, Monokuma and the Cubs get their own episode, and then Sumugi gets her own episode.
And Team Danganronpa in general.
Oh, are we doing a separate episode for Team Danganronpa, or is that just getting...
No, with Sumugi.
Okay. Yeah. I totally fucking...
She's pretty much the mouthpiece of Team Danganronpa, so...
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
So... But yeah, Junko time today. Like we said at the beginning, we're probably going to run through things a little differently here, because this is a whole different kind of character to cover.
Pop quiz. Take a shot every single time you go to Comic-Con or a big nerd convention and see how many people are cosplaying as Junko Enoshima.
To be fair, there's probably more people dressed up as Nagito.
That's fair, too.
Yeah.
But my point still stands.
Y'all keep telling me Junko's the most popular character. I see more Nagito than I do Junko. You know, just saying.
You actively look for Nagito, though.
I really don't. I don't go out and actively look for fan art. I'm not that kind of guy. If something comes across my feed, I'm like, oh, hey, nice. But I don't go looking for it.
I mean, to be fair, there's not a lot of memes you can make about Junko and her fetish for despair, compared to Mr. Lucky Boy over here.
That's true. Then again, one of the more popular Nagito memes is literally just him photoshopped with a bald head and short legs. So, I mean...
Somehow shipped with Sans.
Yeah. I don't even want to know how that shit fucking started. God.
The internet is a strange and wonderful place full of terrible ideas and people.
All right, well let's get started. We'll start with Mukuro first, because she's gonna take probably the least amount of time to go through.
Right.
And honestly, we're probably gonna have to go down our whole topics list for each of these guys. Granted, without Ego Theater, it's gonna be a little more streamlined, less distraction.
Yeah.
So, we'll start with Mukuro Ikusaba. The ultimate soldier, the secret 16th student lying dormant somewhere in this school.
This fucking school. Watch it. She calls herself the ultimate despair. Watch out for her.
Christ. Oh god.
God damn it, Kyoko, shut the fuck up.
Design is such a weird thing to talk about for her, because she does not have any sprites in the game other than her disguised
artwork.
Yeah, we found out just before starting this recording, when I went to the wiki page for her, that she has 2 sets of splash art.
Right.
One of them is from Trigger Happy Havoc, and the other one is from Danganronpa 0, apparently?
Yeah, Zero's the novel.
Okay. I didn't know there was a novel. I thought there was just manga.
It was the light novel. It's the light novel that details the events. It follows like the old. I forgot what his name is, but it follows the events of like the ultimate like psychiatrist, not the psychiatrist, but something like, I don't know. But there's like a redhead girl that turns out to be Junko Enoshima the entire time, and basically the entire light novel boils down to all of this would not have happened if Junko got laid.
Oh, you know, I think when I was glancing through Junko's trivia, I think I saw something about that. She had like a love interest who died, and Junko was like the most important person in his life, I guess.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I might have to check that out. It doesn't bring any merit here, because we're just talking the game.
It's in Danganronpa 1 once you beat the game.
Oh, it's in the game.
Yeah, it's in the game.
Oh, I thought you were saying it was a fucking novel that was sold separately.
Oh, you could buy it separately.
Oh, okay.
It's just conveniently it's in the first game if you want to know more about Junko.
Okay. Interesting.
God forbid the game is not going to tell you shit.
Yeah. I said already, Mukuro is the ultimate soldier.
/ ultimate despair.
/ ultimate despair. She's technically a castmate since you are with her at the beginning of the game.
Technically in disguise.
We just totally skipped over her design, but honestly, there isn't much to talk about. She's just wears a basic schoolgirl's uniform with a brown jacket.
Right.
And her Junko disguise is just Junko. But
except she has freckles, a smaller chest.
Yeah.
No Monokuma pins.
She has the giant bow and bunny pin in her hair.
Yeah. Right. AKA the non-spoiler sprite.
Yeah. I don't know. Her sprite set in Trigger Happy Havoc isn't really like... I don't know. It's just not worth talking about because it's all Junko. Right. None of it is Mukuro.
Yeah. Not even Ultimate Talent Development Plan does she get her own
I know.
Sprite set.
She never got her own sprite set in any of the games. They only use, like in Ultimate Talent Development Plan, it's just the Junko sprites from the first game, and I was like, why? I mean, I guess it makes sense. Don't spend the extra money and time making a whole new sprite sheet for a character, but I don't know. I feel like she's important enough in the lore for your main villain that you should give her own sprite. I don't know. I feel like it just doesn't make sense.
It's funny when you say that, like, don't spend that extra time and money, but make sure every character has an entire sprite set with a V and 3 in their eyes. So we have a fucking Samugi reveal, making her sprite set over the hundreds.
Yeah. God. Yeah. I think her design is fine.
Right.
She doesn't look awful. She's kind of in line with the rest of the cast. It's not an awful design, but it's not like a super standout one either.
Right.
Which is fine, considering we don't really get to see her outside of the Junko disguise anyway.
Yeah. I mean, you could technically spend time with her in free time to know a little bit more about her, but that's cheating!
Yeah. Death. She gets impaled by a shit ton of spikes.
While we get to look up her skirt.
Oh, yeah. Very cool. I remember being quite happy about that, and then in like 5 seconds later, I was very not happy about that.
Censorship, damn you!
Yeah. God.
Yeah, it was like, well, psych is dead. At least I have Junko, and now she's dead.
Yeah, I fell for the classic blunder. It's all good, though.
Yeah.
Personality-wise...
In time, we figured out Sakura was best girl the entire time.
Yeah. Personality-wise, Mukuro's just, Man, I guess we kind of have to talk about some free time stuff, because you never actually get to speak to her outside of her being disguised as Junko.
Right.
Though I guess the little bits of free time that you can get with her before she dies, she does give you little hints about who she really is.
She's super obsessive over Junko, like absolutely obsessive about, like she talks about her sister in the free times, but it's
she's talking about Junko, yeah.
Like this is explored a little bit more in the anime where she's like really obsessive over Junko.
I mentioned it last episode that I was gonna talk about the scene in Danganronpa 3 Despair Arc that like perfectly describes the relationship between Mukuro and Junko, and it's when they first like hit the scene and they're in Junko's limo, and Junko was literally like, while she's explaining her plan for like them getting to Hope's Peak and like just kind of chilling and like being bad bitches, whatever it is that she's saying, you know, she literally just explaining her like plan, like her list of like ideas and shit to Mukuro while actively trying to stab her to death with a knife, and Mukuro the entire time is responding to the discussion like it's just a normal conversation and also actively blocking every knife swipe and stab.
It's the Dante and Virgil effect.
And, like, while she's actively having this conversation with Junko, internally, she's, like, ahogeing over, like, oh, she's so perfect. She's trying to stab me. Oh, my God. And on the outside, she's just like, oh, that sounds interesting. And she's just carrying on like a normal conversation while she's blocking knife stabs from Junko. And I was like, I just couldn't stop laughing. I was like, this whole scene is fucking bonkers and I love it. But like that, if you wanted an idea of what their relationship was like, that is like that's like the best explanation I can give you for how these characters like treated each other off screen.
Right.
It's Jesus Christ. There isn't really much to talk about on how well she's written. I think
he was a MacGuffin.
Yeah, I think as the like bait and switch for the real Junko Enoshima, for how short she's around, and the fact that she gets like, she clearly was not expecting to die, because that wasn't the plan.
Right.
I think for the short time she's around to like fool you, she does a good job. And like you said, at being the MacGuffin, the bait and switch in this situation, she's great.
Right.
But character-wise, but character-wise, kind of like Leon.
Yeah, it's like the same thing where they're like, if it was a character, I would be disappointed. But since it's a MacGuffin, I am fine with it.
She doesn't really fit the definition of a MacGuffin.
Then she's a plot device. That's what it is then.
More of a plot device, yeah. A MacGuffin is something that's important to the writing. Like, it's something that's important to the characters, but not important to the audience.
Like, despair.
Yeah. Because at that point, a lot of people were probably, like, kind of, like, lashed onto Junko, like, oh, I want to get to know her more, and then she was gone. You know? That doesn't really make her a MacGuffin.
Well, yeah, that's fair enough. It's like the same thing with the Headmaster's a pretty good plot device.
Yeah. So, for what she's used for, I think she's written pretty well.
Right.
The reveal of Junko not actually being dead, and like that of being Mukuro the entire time, especially since you don't even know Mukuro exists until what, like the end of chapter 4?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's pretty well done as far as that goes. She's not really much of a character outside of that, though. She's not used for a whole lot else, except for, like, in post-media stuff, like the anime. So.
Anime, light novel, all that stuff.
Yeah. That's the only stuff that really fills in anything about her character. If it weren't for any of that, we would know next to nothing about her. So.
Yeah.
On the topic of impact, though, I will say that, like, her death at the beginning, outside of a murder or an execution, is the only one of its kind, really.
Right.
So, unless you want to count Nekomaru, who gets fucking fried and cyborged, but he technically doesn't die either, so doesn't really count.
Right.
So.
It's the movie got directly involved with Rantaro. That's just whole another can of worms of itself.
Yeah. But we can go ahead and move on to the trivia on this girl. She fucking has anywhere to go.
Where'd you come from? Where did you go? Where'd you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Doot. Oh, here it is.
And like that, this entire podcast just got copyright.
Alright, so Mukuro
What?
Mukuro means corpse or body, while the kanji for Ikusaba means warblade or battlefield. Her name literally means dead body. That's funny.
That's a big oof. That's a big kick from me.
That's really funny to me. There's a considerable amount of foreshadowing that Mukuro was a soldier while disguised as Junko. One of her favorite free time gifts is a field rations, and she described her early life as living in a war zone. Huh.
Yeah, that's fair.
Her profile in Danganronpa If states that since childhood she had always had a special interest in mystery stories and is completely engrossed by them. She's one of the characters who has shown romantic feelings towards one of her family members, the other being Keinon Nakajima, I'm assuming from another episode. and Korakiyu Shinguji.
Well, she basically was just... It's because she's a chick she gets a pass, but they're basically the same character.
People give her a pass because she's obsessed with Junko Enoshima, and not some random dead chick who's also possessing you.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my sister's lipstick under this mask, therefore she's possessing me, and you're like, that's not how that works, but okay. I know that's not what he says, but like that's what I thought it was initially.
Would you like to come over here? I want to show you a trick involving the seesaw.
I was like, when he first pulled his mask down, I was like, is he legitimately possessed, or is he just a fucking nutcase?
He's a fucking nutcase that thinks he's possessed.
Either way, he's wearing lipstick under his mask, which is already a fucking gimp suit mask, so the chances of him just being a fucking nutcase are pretty high, considering. So
then he spots about killing for his sister.
Mukuro's death in Trigger Happy Havoc is similar to Chiaki Nanami's death in Danganronpa 3 Despair Arc, being suddenly impaled by spears. Well, true. Both deaths also double as acts of betrayal from those who were closest to them. Junko in Mukuro's case, and Chiza in Chiaki's case. Yeah.
Big oof.
Apparently Mukuro knows how to sing, as Junko made her sing Tsubasa o Kudasai. I hope I said that right. During the tragedy of Hope's Peak Academy. In the demo version of Danganronpa, Mukuro's death at the hands of Monokuma does not occur, and so she is also present in the class trial.
Oh.
That would have been interesting to see. Mukuro and her twin sister Junko are both voiced by Megumi Toyoguchi in the Japanese version, and Amanda Celine Miller, who also voices Toko, Shirokuma, and Saiko Kimura in the English version.
Right.
Cool.
Makes sense, the twin sisters after all.
Yeah. In the sound gallery, Mukuro's sprite is of her without her Junko disguise. However, like all sound gallery sprites, it is entirely blacked out, with an iPod-like music device and headphones being the only source of color. So it's not an actual sprite. I was about to say, if she has an actual sprite on that screen, where is it? Why do I never see it? And now I see why, is because it's not a fucking sprite. Mukuro has the least amount of voice lines in-game out of any Danganronpa character, lasting only 44 seconds in total. Gee, I wonder why. It's almost like she almost doesn't even exist in these games. There is more Izuru Kamakura than there is Mukuro.
Dude, you have a fucking non-stop debate with Izuru Kamakura, at least.
Yeah. Sheesh. Yeah. So, what do you think, Jer? Final thoughts on Mukuro Ikusaba before we move on.
I don't understand why Liam finds this character attractive.
Liam does?
Oh, yeah.
What is he looking at? The Junko sprite?
No.
I can't imagine he's looking at anything else. There's not a whole lot to look at. You gotta watch the anime if you want to see Mukuro, dude.
Yeah.
I think the only other time in Trigger Happy Havoc that you actually see what she actually looks like are the photos, the class photos that always have Junko's face covered, and her student profile that you find in the end game that says like her ultimate talent and stuff and has like a profile picture of her.
Yeah. With her dead.
No, not dead. It's like a picture of actual Mukuro in her actual uniform.
Right, but it's all like, it has like the X out, it's all grayed out. It says.
Oh, it has like the dead stamp over it.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it does or not.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. She exists in the game. That's about all I got.
Hot device.
Yeah. Jer, what do you give Mukuro on a rating of -10 to 10?
Non-applicable.
NA. I will
You think I'm joking, but I'm not.
There's not enough here to rank, honestly. I will give her a 1 ham sandwich. Ham sandwich. Cool. Okay, moving on. Oh boy, we get to talk about the funny bear.
The funny murder bear. Ha ha ha.
I fucking love Monokuma. Okay.
He's in all 3 games for a reason.
Best design out of the whole series. He's the mascot. He's got to have a great design, and whoo boy did they fucking nail it. As opposed to
win, baby.
Honestly, if they would have kept the Phantom design from Distrust, where he was like a living what's it called?
Like a medical doll.
Yeah, the medical statue. If they would have kept that design, I probably still would have loved him. Like, if he was that design, but he had the same, like, lines and personality, would you still love him? Or would you hate him?
Pretty much. I'm like, man, this design looks kind of scary. And, like,
I think I'd love him even more, honestly, because he's all depressing and, like, mean and, like, scary to look at, but then he's, like, super funny. I'd be like, dude, this character fucking slaps. Hell yeah. That's my rating of Monokuma just right now. Not even my rating, my closing arguments. That's my final thoughts on Monokuma.
This character fucking slaps.
This character slaps, dude. I love Monokuma. I am never not happy to see him enter the scene.
Right.
And like I talked about before, in all the anime that he's in, the Trigger Happy Havoc anime, he's such a fucking character. They play him up so well. Yeah. God, I love this character.
Yo, why do I got a bad feeling that you're gonna be like kidnapped and you're gonna be like bruised and beaten, and then you're gonna be like scared out of your mind, and all of a sudden you hear, and you're like, oh fuck, it's Monokuma, I got kidnapped by Monokuma, holy shit!
I'm gonna be all beat to shit, and like as soon as I hear the laugh, I'm gonna smile, and I'm gonna be like, aw, hell yeah.
It was all worth it.
Good. Yeah, Monokuma is the
ultimate headmaster.
The ultimate headmaster, thank you. Thank you, V3. He gets a special role because he's Monokuma. He's not a protag, an ally, a rival, or a cast. He's a mascot.
He's just a bear. Bears don't kill people.
God. Monokuma never fucking dies. So there's, well, I guess actually technically he does, but they're all like temporary.
Yeah.
Cuz he just comes back again. Dies. Yeah. He dies actually, if you think about it. Technically, he dies almost immediately at the beginning of the killing game when fucking Mondo picks him up and he turns into a bomb and they yuck him into the fucking air and then he blows up.
But he's a bear. They're like no consequence for him.
They were like, "Oh wow, it's over already," and then another Monokuma popped up, and they're like, "Oh Jesus!"
Yeah. You guys, I'm not gonna murder you. I'm a bear. I can't murder anything, but this gun I found, this will definitely kill.
This will kill. A body is about to be discovered. Personality-wise, oh god. This fucking character, dude. I love Monokuma. I could gush about this character for hours.
Incarnate. He's chaos incarnate.
He is literally chaos incarnate. He's got so many good like one-liners. He's got the perfect comebacks for people making fun of him. He gets all like mad when people keep calling him a stuffed bear.
Yeah.
He makes all these funny little jokes. He's got a great sprite set to match with his character.
And this is the first game, mind you. This is not when he gets nutty.
All the line delivery from the voice actor. I know that his voice actor in the first game is different from the rest of the games, but the guy who voiced him in this game really like set him apart from the rest of the characters. I don't even know how to describe it. Monokuma like almost doesn't even feel like he's part of the game.
Right.
It just feels like you're playing a murder mystery game, and Monokuma's just like fucking Deadpool. He just dropped in and is just there.
Which is funny because playing like we keep saying this scenario to everyone who's playing the game. When you're playing through the first time, you're one of like the students. You're one of the kids involved in the scenario. When you're watching someone else play this, you're playing as Monokuma. You're Monokuma at that point.
Pretty much. It's great though.
Yeah, it's a great experience. It's a very good experience.
He's a great character.
4 times already.
And he sets up. He also kind of serves as like your rules, your explanation for the killing game. He's a good source of like I think a lot of the characters, especially like Nagito in the second game, does this a couple times. I think even Togami does this like once or twice in Trigger Happy Havoc. They will like ask Monokuma certain questions about the rules so that they can like distinguish like if a loophole might exist or not. Right. Especially if it's relevant to the case, you know. Yeah. And that's something I also love about Monokuma is that he's a lot of things, but he's never shown himself to be a liar in any of the games. He says he does not interfere with the game. He's literally just there to observe. And I can't think of a single time that he's ever broken that rule.
I hear people crying V3, 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 separate parties.
Yeah, Monokuma does not break the rules or get involved in V3. Tsumugi does, but she's also a participant of the killing game.
Right.
She's not the true mastermind behind it. Team Danganronpa is, and Monokuma's he's an entirely separate entity in V3. He is not controlled by Tsumugi the way that he is by Junko in the first 2 games.
Or the AI in the technically Junko AI.
Technically still Junko, yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to say, because obviously there's not a whole lot of recurring characters from one game to the next, aside from a few like exceptions, but Monokuma is probably the most consistent character across all 3.
Right.
He does get a little more like haha and like crazy in the later games, but he doesn't like feel like not like Monokuma. Right. If that makes sense.
It feels perfectly in line with his character to do whatever the stuff he does.
Exactly.
He just fucking does a Kamehameha? Yeah, of course he could do that.
He does so many fighting game reference like screens in Danganronpa 2, and it's so funny to me, especially when you think back to the fact that Danganronpa 2 is a video game. Literally. Which he tells you a lot. He tells you right off the bat, and it consistently throughout Danganronpa 2, because it's a game. Oh, it's a game. Because it's a game. He tells you that all the time, and then when you get to the end and realize that it is actually a game, you look back at Monokuma. You look back at Monokuma and you're like, you sly dog.
We gotta take things for truth from Monokuma, man.
Yeah.
He's literally a Jack Sparrow meme, so I can't believe that you were telling the truth. I do that quite a lot, actually, yet you always seem so surprised.
Yeah. Pretty much, man. Oh, God. How well Monokuma was written?
Fucking top-notch.
Top-notch. Again, his line delivery in the voice acting department, but the lines themselves, he made me laugh from the very first time he showed up, and he never stopped, honestly.
Or we can't wait for another Danganronpa game so we can see more Monokuma.
Yeah. Monokuma's a consistently funny character. He's consistently written well. Like we said, nothing he does is out of line for what you would expect Monokuma to do.
What's also really good, he also has his own aura of menace.
Yeah. He's very threatening, just on his own.
Yeah, he's very funny, but he's also very menacing at the same time.
Well, because like I said, he's there to establish the rules and the limits of the game, and one of the first rules that always gets established is no violence against Monokuma. You cannot fight him.
I mean, you could try.
A lot of the time it's shown that people who fight him end up getting either hurt or killed.
Or unless you're Sakura.
Yeah, unless you're Sakura. She literally just fought him and walked away unscathed. Honestly, I think it's just because Monokuma couldn't even kill her if he wanted to. He was probably like, you know what, I could like self-destruct on her if I wanted. I don't think it would kill her though. It's like we said in the Sakura episode, the only person powerful enough to kill Sakura was Sakura.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, Impact? God.
Kind of weird talking about Impact since he's in all 3 games, but...
He is. Honestly, I think I think Monokuma is, like, the reason.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the biggest reasons why people love these games. Is because he even says in V3 he's the mascot. And he has a great design, and he's a great mascot, because he's just, again, such a great, consistent character throughout the series. He's one of the only recurring characters throughout every game in the series. Really, he's even in all the anime. Like,
it also helps that, like, Monokuma Theater, in general, also really helps his character a lot.
Monokuma Theater is cheating, because it's just an endless amount of fucking, like, free time with Monokuma. Like, honestly.
Literally, yeah. The inner machinations of my mind are an enigma. Cut to Monokuma Theater.
It's like, so, Monokuma, what's Monokuma Theater gonna be about? Like, he's in a pitch meeting with someone, right? He's like, they're like, what's Monokuma Theater gonna be about? And he's like, the inner machinations of my mind, and what an enigma they are. And then he turns to the camera and breaks the fourth wall like he always does, and he's like, that's it. That's the show. and then Makoto wakes up in his bed and he's like, what the fuck was that dream? And then he goes to breakfast.
There was literally one Monokuma Theater where he said absolutely nothing at all, and we were like, good talk, Monokuma.
It was like 7 pages of like 3-dot dialogue, and then Monokuma Theater ended, and I was like, wow, very cool.
Good talk, Monokuma.
And then in V3, they're all movie references.
Right.
Oh, God. And then in Danganronpa 2, it's like chats with the audience directly, and Monami is also there.
Right.
Like, even Monokuma Theater is consistently entertaining. Like, a lot of the time, it's just Monokuma saying, like, weird shit. And a lot of the time, it's, like, weirdly motivational. And a lot of the time, it just makes no sense at all.
Right.
But it's still, like, every night you go to bed, you're like, oh, boy, what's Monokuma Theater gonna be about?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what I'm talking about with, like, the impact here, is that he is the only, without going into spoilers, if you're just looking at, like, the games, right? Monokuma is the only consistent character between all 3 games that you can just see at a glance. And, like, obviously if another Danganronpa comes out, which I keep hearing that there is one in development, it's just under a different team.
Development hell, I guess.
Yeah. You know, obviously, if there's a new game, we know Monokuma's gonna be there.
Yeah.
There's no way he's not gonna be.
He's gonna have another sidekick, most likely.
I think the best way to sum up the impact of Monokuma, and I know this is not gonna be the same for Junko, even though you can bitch and moan and argue all you want, there is no Danganronpa if there's no Monokuma. If you give me a Danganronpa that does not have Monokuma in it, even somewhere, I guarantee you I'm not going to enjoy it that much.
Right.
He just brings so much to these games. He is like the majority of the character of what these games are.
Right. Why do you think like a lot of like the Danganronpas have like a Monokuma type character?
Yeah, a lot of Danganronpas, that's what I like about them too, is a lot of them don't even bring Monokuma in. A lot of them, like Danganronpa F, Shattered Hope, they brought Monokuma in at the very beginning, but he's only there to, like, bring the characters to the place they were there, and then Rule was like, alright, thank you, I have it from here. And then Monokuma's just pieced out. We haven't seen him since. Rule's the one taking over the show.
Right.
And I thought that was kind of fun. And they even had the guy who does all the music for Danganronpa F, Stevie Pilgrim. He did the voice of Monokuma, and honestly, he did a pretty alright job.
Fair enough.
So, but yeah, and, like, there's the camp one, where they have the fucking sock puppet, Mono Sock, that's like this weird little sock monkey looking version of Monokuma. That one kills me. That dude looks so funny.
Then let me ask you this, how many of those characters in all those fan games look like Junko Enoshima? I rest my case.
I don't think any of them really do, honestly.
Well, do they have their own? What I'm trying to get at is, do they have their own characters that are like Junko Enoshima design-wise, character-wise?
No, not that I can think of.
That's what I'm getting at.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only example I can think of that I'm still interested in is Project Eden.
Mm-hmm.
Because that doesn't seem to have Monokuma in it at all.
Right. They're also making it like its own game and probably are going to sell it at one point, right?
Yeah, well, as far as I'm aware, it's supposed to be set in the same universe, and it's still supposed to, like, be Danganronpa. It's just not, like... It takes place in America instead of Japan.
Right.
From what I understand. And the people who do seem to be enforcing the killing game are, like, people in, like, armor with guns, but their armor is, like, painted black and white like Monokuma, so I'm wondering if there is going to be some sort of relation to the actual series. I kind of doubt Monokuma is going to be in the game at all, because, again, it is an actual game that they probably are intending to sell at some point, so it's probably not going to have Monokuma in it, but, you know, who knows?
Unless Spike Chunsoft does them a solid.
Yeah, and, like, gives them permission. Be kind of pog, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's no Danganronpa without Monokuma.
Right.
He's integral to this series, and without him, the games are honestly not. I would say not as memorable.
Right.
I think he's a big part of the reason that keeps us coming back to this game.
Because, like, it's like, take the Monokuma out, you lose a lot of, like, the funny moments in the game.
Exactly, a lot of the levity.
Right.
So.
How are we not going to have the moment of levity where fucking Monokuma is, like, lusting over the ship over Kyoko and Makoto, man? Come on.
Yeah. I do like that one, too. Christ. Alright, trivia time. God, he has a long-ass trivia list. I mean, obviously, but still, man. Alright, his original Japanese voice actress, Nobuo Oyama, I have no idea if I pronounce that right, is popular from her voice acting of Doraemon, which Spike Chunsoft purposely made Monokuma sound like. Due to her battle with dementia, she retired from voice acting, with her last in-game role being Cyber Danganronpa VR.
Fair enough.
That sucks, man. My grandma's got dementia. It's not fun.
Fair enough.
Yeah. His name in Distrust was originally Phantom. We knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Still cool. I would have loved... Phantom is a cool-ass name.
Right.
Oh, here you go, Jarrett. Monokuma also shares some similarities with Zero-3 from Zero Escape, including that they are highly advanced technologies structured after animals that are intermediaries behind the mastermind and the players.
Yeah, Zero Escape, what's it called? The second game? I forgot. Virtue's Last Reward, that's what it's called. There's the Zero in that game is an AI known as Lago, is a bunny known as Zero the Third, and he's a bunny dressed up in an emperor suit, and he's literally Monokuma as a bunny. I am not kidding. Like, he was literally Monokuma as a bunny. It was like, yeah, I'm like, yo, why is Monokuma a bunny, Joey? And he's like, right.
There's an added dot on that one that says, another thing that should be noted is that both of them have highly erratic and ecstatic personalities, though occasionally lower their voices in threatening remarks.
Oh, yeah.
They are also voiced by Tarako, which was likely cast in reference to Zero-3, since both Kotaro Uchikoshi and Kazutaka Kodaka are known friends.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't see this one when I was scrolling through this. Another similar character to Monokuma is Billy the Puppet from the Saw series. Both act as avatars to the masterminds behind their violent games. Both have a black, white, and red color scheme. Both revel in giving their victims a tiny chance of survival, although Billy tends to be more genuine about it than Monokuma. And both make use of elaborate traps meant to inflict grisly, ironic deaths on their victims. I never thought about that. And I love the Saw movies.
Danganronpa's just anime Saw.
It honestly kind of is, yeah. Shit, dude. In Chapter 4 of the second game... Oh, there's an added bullet point that I skipped over on the Billy the Puppet one that says it should be noted that Danganronpa was originally going to have a more horror look.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. I think it's referring to distrust, which, yeah. For sure. In Chapter 4 of the second game, it is revealed that Monokuma and Usami both hate and are afraid of mice. This is another reference to his resemblance to Doraemon, who is terrified of mice ever since a robotic mouse gnawed off his iconically absent cat ears.
Oh,
this trait is later revealed...
They were talking about mice in front of a gigantic castle. I thought it was a jab at Disneyland.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was, too. I remember that. Oh, right here. This trait is later revealed to have an important role in the story. It's a trait given to the observer, which makes sure they can't enter the Nezumi Castle, which would act as a hiding place for the students if the observer went rogue, and contains the password to escape the program. After Monokuma stole Usami's role as the observer, he inherited her fear of mice, meaning it's a trait he doesn't normally possess. Huh. Well, how about that? In one of the instances of Monokuma Theater in Chapter 4, Monokuma speaks in Morse code. Translated, the message reads, "Be sure to drink your Kumatine," a reference to a Christmas story.
Yep.
It appears that Monokuma's evil left eye is meant to be similar to the symbol located on the front of Hope's Peak Academy's insignia. It is later shown in Danganronpa 3 Despair Arc that upon arriving at the school's gates, Junko took a glance at the Hope's Peak insignia and incorporated part of it while designing Monokuma.
Fair enough.
I think I remember that scene. As seen in various promotional beta art, Monokuma is likely going to appear in Danganronpa another episode and have a major role in the game, as he is seen running away from Komaru and Toko. Oh yeah, because he's just like Monokuma Horde without the character in that game, huh?
Right, yeah.
In the beginning of the second game's class trial, after the students discussed the murders which took place in Hope's Peak Academy and inspired the Twilight Syndrome murder case, Monokuma and Monomi, who is tied up next to his seat, get caught up in a small discussion over how violent high school students have become nowadays. The humor behind this little exchange stems from the fact that Monokuma and Monomi's voice actresses, Nobuyu Oyama and Takeko Sasuga, God, I'm so bad with Japanese names, man, are both senior voice actresses who are at best known for the roles they have portrayed in some of Japan's most famous long-running animated shows since the 1970s.
They mostly portray very angry high school girls.
Yeah. Monokuma's English voice actor, Brian Beacock, also voiced Monosuke.
Yep.
In the end of the 5th chapter of the second game, Monokuma decides, apparently on a whim, to execute his adoptive little sister Monomi along with Chiaki Nanami after the latter's words motivate Monomi to finish off Monokuma by grabbing onto him and self-destructing repeatedly. A plan that was, however, prone to fail, as Monomi had around 10 spare copies at the time, while Monokuma had Novem Decillion, claiming that he suddenly remembered that he's an only child, and that he has no reason to keep someone who does nothing but constantly interfere with his plans around. This is very reminiscent of how Junko killed her twin sister Mukuro for the sake of her personal devices, a decision Junko later admits to have made on a whim as well.
Fair enough.
Monokuma is Kazutaka Kodaka's favorite Danganronpa character because he is the easiest to write and because he can say whatever he wants to say.
Hell yeah.
In a poll hosted by MyNavi, fans voted Monokuma the most popular Danganronpa V3 Monokuma unit.
Nice.
I think that's kind of silly that they had to vote for that at all. Are you telling me you thought one of the Cubs would be more popular than Papa Monokuma? What?
What?
It's insane. Monokuma is a guest character in Conception 2, Children of the Seven Stars, featuring as a DLC boss. Very cool. And his last piece of trivia, in Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony, Monokuma is revealed to hate Sonic the Hedgehog with a passion, seemingly jealous of his fame. On November 3rd, 2017, Sonic the Hedgehog's official Twitter page answered to Spike Chunsoft about Monokuma's outburst using comments by Sonic, Dr. Eggman, and Shadow the Hedgehog. Dr. Eggman, of course, agrees with Monokuma's opinion while Sonic quotes Danganronpa's famous catchphrase by going, "You've got that wrong." The original quote in the English localization is, "No, that's wrong." He uses his hatred to Sonic in-game to regain his motivation by comparing him to a crime scene in the Neo World program. I didn't know about any of this. I don't remember him shit-talking Sonic the Hedgehog in V3, dude. That's amazing.
He never name-dropped it, but he said that
stupid blue hedgehog or something like that.
That blue-haired hedgehog or something like that.
Christ. And then there's a whole long list here of his other appearances in other media, like video game and guest spots and stuff.
In fact, there's a Monokuma clock in fucking Animal
This is really funny. There's a poster from Japan from 2013 when Ted was coming out in theaters. Apparently was the same time the animation version of Trigger Happy Havoc was about to come out.
Ooh.
So there's a poster of Monokuma from the animation and Ted standing next to each other on a poster. And for Danganronpa the animation, it says 8/28 Wednesday for the Blu-ray DVD release, and for Ted it says Blu-ray DVD now in stores.
Nice.
That's really funny.
That's a definite collector's item.
Yeah. And then there's also the Identity V skin for the Danganronpa crossover stuff with that game, which I haven't seen a whole lot of, but it literally just looks like an anime version of Dead by Daylight.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Imagine having Monokuma in Dead by Daylight, dude. That'd be sick.
What would he do?
I don't know.
But he's just a skin. Awesome.
He's just a skin for an existing hunter in Identity V, but I mean, fuck, man. It'd still be cool. People who don't play people who don't watch anime or play Danganronpa, they'll be like, "Who the fuck is Monokuma and why is he in my game?" God. Alright, Jer. It's time.
Let's rip the band-aid off very quick and clean.
We're coming up on almost an hour here, and we finally got to probably the reason you're watching our video. I'll probably have to timestamp each character in the description so that you guys can skip through for who you want to hear our opinions on. Because this one might run a little longer, but it's the season 1 finale. It's the end of Trigger Happy Havoc. It's a Mastermind episode. We can afford to go over.
Sit down and shut up and listen to us exposit the entire plot of Danganronpa and why we all did this.
We're not going to do that. Alright. So, Junko Enoshima, the ultimate fashionista / ultimate despair. She is the mastermind of Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc. Design-wise, honestly, she's pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah.
She's got a pretty standout design. I love her hairpins. You know what I especially love? A little detail that I don't hear enough people really talk about. Mukuro as Junko, her ponytails, her big giant fucking ponytails, are a lot more brushed and straight, I suppose. It's kind of like Tsumugi from regular sprite to Mastermind sprite.
Right.
Junko, her actual sprite set, the Mastermind sprite set, her hair is a lot more frilled and
crazy looking.
Yeah. I always thought that was kind of a fun difference between the two. She's also got the Monokuma hairpins, the white bear and the black bear ones that are both pretty fucking great. Her overall just look, honestly, is pretty good.
Right.
She's got a pretty good... it's not so much the color that stands out as much as it is just the look itself.
Right.
She's got very high, thigh boots, very short skirt with her little, it's like a uniform shirt that's unbuttoned to show cleavage, which, again, I'm sure no one has a problem with. But, yeah, honestly, I don't have any problems with her design. I wouldn't say it's, super standout, but we gave, Makoto and everyone else like a pretty overall the cast rounded out at like a 6 out of 10 on design. I'd say Junko's more of like a 7 or an 8 out of 10.
With Celeste being the 9.
Yeah, Celeste and Hifumi are definitely up there just because they're more recognizable. Junko's just below them, I think. She's recognizable enough, but not
she's on the
like,
same tier as Sakura.
Yeah, she's not like an extreme standout. But you'd definitely be able to pick her silhouette out amongst others.
Mm-hmm.
So, Death, she has
the worst
execution in the first game. Her execution is so boring.
Yeah, it is literally every execution, one after the other.
It's every execution you've already seen, just played one after the other.
And
part of that is, it's really boring to me because she's the main villain of the first game.
Right.
And I feel like with how unique every other execution has been, I feel like they could have gone a little more and tried to give Junko her own unique execution that fit her better.
Which she brought upon herself.
Yeah. I don't know. You could argue that that was the perfect execution for her, was her going through all the, like, quote-unquote pain that she put the other Blackens through.
When in reality, she should have been, like, killed within, like, the first one.
The very first execution should have killed her realistically, and that's another reason it doesn't quite work for me, is that it's just kind of, like... It just kind of, like, becomes kind of cartoony.
Yeah.
Like,
she literally I
felt genuine shock and uncomfortable when I watched Leon's execution because it's brutal and it's fast
and it matches him specifically.
And it's the kind of thing that you watch and it makes you feel that pain, because if you've ever been belted by a baseball before, you're like, oh, that shit hurts, right?
Now imagine 1,000 of them hitting you in rapid succession.
Like, Leon's execution is fuck, man. I think Blastoff is great, but it's also a little cartoony, but I don't have any problems with that, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who gets Mondo's is really fucking silly. You already know my opinion on that. Celeste is great.
Being burned alive, that's where I'm like, okay, this is fucking retarded with Junko. Because she sits there... Like, Celeste is being, like, burned alive and right there. She's being set ablaze before she's getting hit by the fire truck, which is immolation, which is one of the worst kind of deaths you could experience. And it's like it's a very grand death, so that's why Celeste was not in despair. And then you go to Junko's version, and she's fucking meditating in the fire. Like, come on, dude. You should be screaming or stuff like that. Or you're being set on fire, for God's sake.
And, like, backtracking back to Leon's execution, his, like... A lot of the time when he's getting pelted, there's no blood, or he's, like, silhouetted so you can't see what's really being done to him, and there's just blood everywhere. When Junko's getting pelted by baseballs, she's, like, laughing.
Yeah.
And she's, like, enjoying it.
Right.
Like, I don't get the sense that she's feeling pain watching her go through all these executions again. I feel like I'm just watching her go through these executions that I've already seen.
Right.
And they're not as good as they were the first time, because they're all missing that, like, element that made each one unique, and that was that each one was made for that specific character. And Junko just kind of feels like her execution just kind of, like, rides the coattails of each one in order. And then she finally just dies to the last one that you just saw last chapter.
Twice if you were bad at the game.
Yeah, twice if you failed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't like her execution.
Right.
What's it called? Is the ultimate execution?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's not the ultimate execution. It's the ultimate worst execution.
Yeah.
Because it's very good at being the worst execution.
Right. It lacks the impact. And it also doesn't help that Junko's, like, cartoonishly smiling or reacting to all these things with, like, he's like silly as Mondo's is. At least he looks like he was, like, getting tormented and tortured while he's going through that thing really fast.
Yeah. And again, like Leon's, there's nothing silly about it. It's just brutal.
It's just straight to the point, he's getting hit with a bunch of baseballs. Watch this kid die.
Junko's execution for each one of these just takes all of that away.
Right.
It's like when you get a really good movie,
it's like,
and then a sequel comes out, and the sequel's okay, but it's not as good as the first one. That's what Junko's execution is.
Right.
It's okay, but it's not better than any of the previous ones.
Right.
It's just, it just makes me so sad. I was so disappointed when I first played the game.
I think it's in the bottom 3 out of all the executions in the series.
Yeah, honestly. I'm debating saying it's the worst in the series, but I can't remember. I feel like there's one that's at least worse than this is.
Probably Mikan's.
No, Mikan's has a lot of, like, metaphorical junk going on.
Right.
At the very least.
Right.
And it's got a lot of stuff going on visually, too. Junko's... It's unique, at least. Again, Junko's is just all the executions you've seen.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say it. It is the worst one. It is the worst one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can't think of one that's worse off the top of my head. I'm sure there's at least one other execution in the series. Actually, you know what?
I was going to say Mukuro Ikusaba, but at the same time, like, he was boiled alive. It was actually very entertaining to watch him die.
Yeah, he was killed, and then his ghost was salted and destroyed as well. Which, you know, I was down with that. I was like, fuck yes, wipe this motherfucker off the face of the earth. Ironically, Tsurugi's. I think Tsurugi's execution is actually worse than Junko's.
Fair, mainly Tsurugi's wasn't really an execution though, but yeah,
it's kind of paired in it's made in an execution like cutscene style,
right?
And technically, it's also Kibo's execution, but
yeah,
she literally is just standing there, and a rock passes in front of her, and she switches from Junko back to Tsurugi, and she and Monokuma just get crushed by a rock.
Right.
At least Junko's tried to do something.
Right.
The more important part of Tsurugi's was Kibo, and it's a good execution for Kibo because he's doing a lot. Mm-hmm. Tsurugi just gets a couple seconds of standing there before she gets crushed.
Right.
So, yeah.
Other than that,
I don't think there's any other executions that are worse than Junko's though. Those two are pretty far down the list, my man. So,
I mean, even in the second game, at least the gigantic god AI Junko got fucking as goofy as it was.
Technically not an execution, but it was kind of cool. Yeah. That's actually kind of funny to think about that neither one of the Mastermind executions are that great because the Mastermind in 2 doesn't get executed.
Right. Hajime lives, so yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Interesting. I guess I shouldn't be that surprised. It seems to be the recurring theme with these games is that the build-up is always great, but the Masterminds are always a letdown in some aspect.
Right.
For all we talk about Tsurugi, I still don't think she's a great Mastermind either. Mm-hmm. I just think she's the best of the 3.
Right.
So, I think she's got a lot of really interesting stuff going on for me, in particular, and for you.
Yeah, my thing, the mystery of Tsurugi is great, but it's just like the actual of like Tsurugi is just like,
There's not a ton going on with her either.
Right.
I just think she's a lot more interesting because she actually was part of the killing game.
Yeah. You actually were with her the entire time.
Actually hid right under your nose the whole time, which is really funny considering, like, Junko didn't even do that. She made her sister do that, and then she killed her almost immediately because she was like,
I'm bored.
I don't really need her anymore.
Which, I know people are going to be like, well, that's not the reason why she did it. In the first game, as the very first thing in the series, she literally did all this because she was bored. And me as a guy who's a big villain guy, I cannot stress this enough how much that makes me mad. Because that is lazy writing 101.
We'll get to that here in a minute when we get to how she was written. Just to kind of rein it back in, her execution, it's not great.
Not great. It's
really not. Maybe some people like it. Like I said, I I've heard the argument that it's fitting and it's good because it's her going through all the executions that she's inflicted on the other killers. And I'm like, yeah, I get that.
You see, it's the perfect punishment because at the very last second, you could tell she got bored with her execution, and that's when she died. I'm like,
I do think that part is okay.
Yeah,
when she's like, wait, she's like, isn't it gonna come down? And then it kills her. Yeah. I was like, okay, that's fine. That makes sense to me. It's just that every other moment besides that one is not that great, because again, it's just all the executions that you've seen thus far.
Like, they should have killed her already.
For 2, they're all worse than the originals, because Junko being in that situation for each execution, each one just loses what makes it like an execution, you know? It's the pain, it's the suffering, it's watching them get punished because they got caught. Junko doesn't look like she's being punished or suffering in any of their executions. I think she would have benefited a lot more had she just had her own unique execution.
Right.
Because it just feels kind of lazy. Then again, the first game I don't think even really had a huge budget to begin with, so maybe they just couldn't afford to make another execution cutscene. And it was a lot easier to just splice all the old ones together with Junko's model swapped in, but I don't know.
We'll never know.
Yeah, I think she would have benefited greatly from just having her own unique animation of an execution. But that's about all I have left to say on her death. So, and as we know, it's not completely her death, and there's a lot of fucked up stuff that happens just from her dying, which is also very similar to Jigsaw in the Saw movies, because he dies in the 3rd movie, and there's still a ton of shit that happens. Like, his death was kind of like a spark on a candle, honestly. Yeah. It just caused even more shit to happen.
Right, like I said, I'm all down for where, like, yeah, Junko was like the catalyst of all the, like, these separate, like, similar style serial killer incidents, which I'm all for, because crazy people be like that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am dreading what's coming next.
Moving on to personality.
Time to talk about the fun and quirky Junko. Yeah.
I think Junko's personality is alright when she's not swapping personalities every 3 sentences.
Right.
Because you can even ask Jer. My literal, real initial reaction to Junko, I was ecstatic. When she first revealed, I was like, dude, this is so good. And then, like, 2 minutes later, I was bored. I was sick of her. Because the constant her just being suddenly a different person, I don't know. I just couldn't handle it. I was like, this is weird and I don't like it.
Which is funny because in the second game, they literally removed that. They didn't remove that. They toned it back way
They toned it down a lot, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I did from the first game.
It was like
I still hated that she was there, but I was like, at least she's not nearly as bad as she was in the first game.
She only changed personalities when she's trying to do a witty comeback. When she's just
or when she was trying to make a point.
Yeah, when she was just explaining things, she wasn't flip-flopping around like every fucking sentence like she was in the first fucking game.
Yeah.
Like
it's literally like every text box or like every couple of text boxes, she's a brand new person.
Right.
And it's not, maybe it works for some people, but for me specifically, and I know for Jer, it's not fun or quirky. It's just annoying. It's fun. I guess it was interesting at first for me, but it just got really old really fast because it was so constant. And I just didn't like a lot of it.
I fucking hate the Uwu one, I swear to God.
Like, the Uwu one made me laugh because it was just like, of course she has a personality like this. But like the smart one, which for some reason she just started using really like more like grammatically correct sentencing and
right,
bigger words. I was like, okay. And then she would immediately switch from like that to the angry screaming saying fuck every 3 sentences or like every 3 words angry personality. And then she'd go back to the ooh woo one.
And then she becomes posh, and then she becomes depressed.
Yeah, and I was like, what? I was so confused because most of her dialogue at the beginning, when she first reveals, before she starts personality hopping, she starts on the posh one with the crown. And I was like, oh, she's British? And then when she switched personalities a couple like text boxes later, and she didn't have the accent, I was like, what is going on? And then after like a couple more switches, I was like, okay, so she's just hopping between different personalities?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, I guess. And then after a few more, I was over it.
Yeah.
I was like, I just don't want to talk to her anymore. I'm done. I figured out who is behind it. I'm ready to go home.
But Dylan, you need to understand why she did this.
She throws up like the fucking like rock on sign. She's like, don't you want to hear about my fucking evil plan? And I was like, no, I think I got it figured out. Taxi, get me out of here. You know?
Get me out of here. Let me out. Let me out.
Yeah. I was done with it after a while.
Which is funny because when like Makoto goes on like the offensive, she stops being like all personality hopping and she's like being dead serious for a moment. I'm like,
she went back to just being Junko.
Yeah, I'm like, this is better. This is so much significantly better than her. Like during the fucking nonstop debate, where like the final nonstop debate where you're trying to convince everyone to go with hope versus despair, and she's trying to sit there making her case like, if you do this, I'll like, okay, that is perfectly fine. This is what I wanted to see. I don't need her to be switching 24/7 to make a point across. She's crazy. The Joker doesn't do that, and he's fucking batshit insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't a fan of it. I did hear someone, I think it was Percy, after Joey finished Trigger Happy Havoc, Snuffles, our friend Joey, his friend Percy that was watching him stream through the game with us, he mentioned that Junko's personality hopping and her personalities were supposed to be like twisted versions of the cast themselves. Like the Uwu one was supposed to be Hina, and the smart one was supposed to be like Kyoko and Togami, and or no, the posh one was supposed to be Togami because of how like egotistical he is, and the smart one was supposed to be Kyoko because she's the detective, and
but then
I think the angry one was supposed to be like Mondo or Taka or something.
He's dead, but like.
Yeah. She doesn't have enough personalities to cover the whole cast, and a lot of the personalities don't exactly line up with the characters that they're compared to either, so I'm not really a fan of that idea.
My idea was that there are parodies of the 7 Deadly Sins, which to me seems to make more sense.
I guess it kind of does, but honestly, I'm not really with that one either.
Yeah, it's like, there's enough theories that you can make on there, but there's still not enough evidence to confirm one or the other.
There is one thing that I'll agree with, is that it's a result of her decline into insanity.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what they wanted to go with, because in the Despair arc for Danganronpa 3, she doesn't personality hop at all. Until you start getting towards the end of Despair arc, after she started, like, brainwashing people, there's moments where she just kind of, like, falls into other personalities, like the smart one and the posh one and the angry one just kind of come out sometimes, but only briefly. And then she's back to just being Junko again. And a lot of the time she's kind of like poppy and bubbly with her like Valley Girl voice. But then there's times where like she's talking to Kamakura where she just gets very like monotoned and doesn't have her Valley Girl voice, and she's talking about like the benefits of despair and a despair-filled world, and she just gets like very serious and like dark for a minute. And I'm like, that's good. Like, this is good stuff. And the like very slight personality hopping, I was like, okay, so they're trying to showcase that she's starting to like lose it a little bit, you know? Yeah, and like I was okay with that.
We do not give credit
I think that was fine.
We do not give credits to the first game for what the anime fixed.
Yeah. That's not what I'm trying to say. I just think that that's the explanation, is that she has like some kind of shattered psyche and like multiple personality disorder because she just kind of like cracked under her own pressure and just kind of like snapped. I think it's just, I don't know if it's supposed to be the 7 deadly sins or like parodies of the other characters.
Right.
None of those really make sense to me. I think it's just something.
From the first game's only perspective, she's just quirky.
Yeah. I think, honestly, realistically speaking, from like a writing standpoint, I think it was just something like weird and quirky in an anime sense that the writers tried to put on her character to make her memorable, and I guess it worked, but it just didn't agree with me. Yeah. I am, like Jer said, I'm also a big villain guy, and if I can't love my villain, then I can't get behind the villain. And I think that's another reason that I love Monokuma so much, is because he's just a great villain, man.
And then once Junko arrives, Monokuma's gone.
Yeah.
I don't remember Dylan specifically where she was like mocking, like making the Monokuma.
One of her personalities is Monokuma, where she's holding a Monokuma plush and she's doing a little like Monokuma voice, and I was like, don't do that. Don't make me miss Monokuma and then mock him in front of me. Don't do that. That made me hate her. Honestly, I was just annoyed with her when they started doing the like fake Monokuma personality. I just got mad. I was like, no, if you're gonna do that, just put Monokuma back in.
Thankfully, they did that in D3.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
That was another big thing for me too, was that I just immediately got irritated with her, and it just made me want Monokuma back. And then they pulled out the fake Monokuma personality, and I was like, man, it just made me want Monokuma back even more. I was like, I don't want to talk to this chick anymore. She's not cool. Monokuma's cool, dude. Give me the bear back. He make me laugh.
Kind of makes you miss Monica, doesn't it?
Kinda. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we've talked about that before. Doki Doki Literature Club is one of my favorite games. I love Monica as a villain.
That was his first visual novel.
Yeah, funny enough. And I didn't play it because it was a visual novel. I played it because my friend was like, you should play this. He got to like Sayori's death at the beginning, and then he played no further because it like messed with him. Because he didn't play it for that. He didn't know it was that kind of game. But he got to Sayori's death and it fucked him up, so he stopped playing it, and then he immediately looked at me and he like slid it my way over the proverbial table on Discord, and he was like, you should play this. And I was like, why? Because I took one look at it, obviously, and I was like, why? And he's like, trust me. So I played through it.
The dilemma with the Sayori question, I'm like, both of these answers are wrong. I have to go walk for 20 minutes.
But yeah, Monica's... I honestly, talking like visual novel villains, if that's even like a genre, I don't think there's a whole lot of visual novels out there that have villains like this.
No. There's a lot of visual novels that are like have villains and stuff like that.
I would say that Monica from Doki Doki Literature Club is a great bar to compare them to, because she's just... Whatever your thoughts on DDLC might be, love it or hate it, Monica is a great villain. She's very well written, she has very believable motives, she has a very interesting, like, character behind her.
And the game is free, so there's no excuse.
There's no reason not to go play it, yeah. If you haven't played it, I'm sorry I spoiled some of it for you just now, but I mean...
Sorry, Joey.
Yeah.
I know you watch these.
Maybe we'll make him play Doki Doki Literature Club. We'll be like, bro, go play this or watch someone play it before you listen to the Mastermind episode.
I don't know, you've seen him react to Kaede. And Gota.
Man, that game will fuck him up too.
For me, they're like the Zero Escape series also has some pretty. Okay, the first and the third game have pretty shit villains, but the second game, I love that. That's the good shit. That's the good shit.
Fair enough.
But for me, my big visual novel series when I first got into no, I'm just kidding. It was Ace Attorney.
Oh yeah, I guess that's technically a visual novel too, huh?
Yeah, very visual novel-esque. But I think like my favorite villain in the Ace Attorney is I don't want to say villains, but like the rival characters, just like the prosecutors and stuff like that. The guys that are always against you, sort of things.
Yeah.
Because villains come and go, like the murderers come and go. It's just the prosecutors always against you. So, like Edgeworth, for example, the main prosecutor for the first game, he's a pretty good like antagonist, so to say, for all your deeds.
So, switching over from personality to how well they were written.
Oh my. Okay.
Just on the merit of Trigger Happy Havoc.
On the time for some positive points. Leading up to her reveal was really good because I didn't figure out it was Junko until I got the numbers explaining like the Mukuro's bot, like where I got the numbers where it like exactly said like this person's height, weight, and bust size. And then the first thing I did is literally open up the that's when I actually figured it out. It was Junko. When I opened up the student notepad during that time, opened it up and looked, I'm like, okay, this is Junko's numbers, so this body is Junko's. But it has the Fenrir tattoo, so it's actually Mukuro. So the actual mastermind is Junko. Just Mukuro was pretending to be Junkuro.
Yep. Honestly, from start to reveal, all the like build up and setup for her character to like be revealed as the mastermind is phenomenal. There's a lot of great stuff happening there. I feel like Mukuro, the whole scene with Kyoko finding out that she exists, I think that could have come up a little sooner. But other than that, honestly, it's pretty great. I don't really have any complaints with it. It's a great reveal. It's just after the reveal was when things started going downhill for me, but everything leading up to the reveal was great.
Right. Everything was leading up to the reveal was great. Then you start getting into the meat and potatoes. Like, all right, we have the, like, think of it like a three-course meal. The appetizers, the build-up, and the reveal. And then the main three-course, the main dish, the motive. Why did she do all of this?
Now, I'll let you say your piece, but I want to say mine first.
Go ahead, because I'm going to be brutal.
I can understand why people see her lack of motive as a good motive, because her main thing with despair is that despair is unpredictable and it's chaotic, which is what she herself tries to be because she's despair incarnate. And wanting to do all this just out of pure boredom really speaks to that, and I'll agree that that's well done. But for me, I just need more. For me personally, I need more to my villains than that. That doesn't feel like... It doesn't feel like a human or a complex, like, point to her character. If you look deep into it like that and understand, like, oh, it's because the lack of motive is what makes her so dangerous, you know? I'm like, yeah, I can agree with that, but it doesn't feel like a real reason, you know? It feels kind of like fake, I guess. I don't really want to say it. No, not forced or contrived. I don't want to say it exactly like this, but I guess I don't know how else to say it. It feels like something that you'd only see in anime, where situations or certain character tropes are like heightened to like benefit the plot. Like, no one in the context of like Danganronpa specifically, no one fucking argues or has a war over hope and despair, you know?
Right.
Real people fight over real things that are also pointless and meaningless, like money, or a deed of paper that says you have the right to stand on this land.
Right.
Like, people fight over real things, and fighting for the sake of hope and despair does not feel like a real thing. But in the context of Danganronpa, it was something I could understand and get behind.
Right.
Like, I could suspend my real-life disbelief to get behind, okay, this is between hope and despair. Like, I could get that. But when you tell me that her motive was literally just that she was bored, it just removes any other kind of, like, realism that I can apply to it. And it just kind of takes away, like, any kind of understanding or enjoyment that I can put into it. Like, Thanos, for example. I'm sure people compare Thanos to fucking everything. But that's because he's a really well-written villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Like,
his reasoning for wanting to do this is understandable. He wanted to save the universe from suffering the same fate his people did. He's just an extremist going about it the completely wrong fucking way. But when he tells you his reasoning, you look at him and you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. I get it.
You're wrong,
that makes sense.
But I get it.
Exactly. And I can't say that about Junko. Even retracing back to Monica from Doki Doki Literature Club. She did all that horrible shit because she was lonely. And because she knew she was playing a game that was rigged against her. She had no option to be with you like the other girls did. And she felt like that was unfair. So she tried to force the game to let her have her way. And it still wouldn't work. And like, I can still look at Monica and be like, I get it. You know, that's understandable. It sucks to be alone. And it sucks to not be able to have the shit that you want. You're going about this a horrible fucking way, but I get it.
Right.
And I can't say that about Junko because her reasoning is so bare and non-existent in terms of just made for this specific plot that it just does not work for me. And that's about all I can say about it, really. It's right. I don't even think it's so much that I hate it. It's just that there's nothing there for me to, like, connect to or work with on a writing level, so I just don't enjoy it because I don't have anything to connect me to it.
Right. And my biggest thing with them is it's very contradictory and it doesn't make any lick of sense. She did this all because she was bored? Really? She did all this fucking work to get all this stuff for this because she was bored out of her fucking mind? Like, are you
it is kind of weird. It is kind of weird that, like, 3 years before this game, she just woke up one day and was like, I'm bored. I'm going to start a war. And then she makes all that, she does all that work and setup just for it to pay off 2 or 3 years later, right?
Right.
Like, it is kind of silly when you point it out like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like literally the equivalent of, like, and she also did this to make to prove a fucking point that despair is unpredictable and all this big, like, because apparently according into the novel she's like this, like, 12th level intellect that can predict everything in the future because she could boil everything down to, like, simple basic mathematic numbers, but she got killed. She killed herself because she couldn't win an argument against a dipshit. Let's be honest here for a quick second.
I will say, just to correct you and make a couple more points here, that's another similarity that she has with Jigsaw, is that Jigsaw is also very good. That's why he was really good at making games for people, is that he was really good at figuring out how people would respond in certain situations, right, and like how things would, like how events would play out. He was very good at, like, guessing that and figuring it out.
You get a
and it's also
you get a little bit of that with Junko's, like, mocking, like, she'll, like, when she's like, even though to all the personality hopping said, so you get, like, the response, like, she knows, like, all the answers that these guys are going to say. The only odd one out was Makoto, because Makoto's, like, this magical wild card, because, I don't know, he's too dense and stupid to get the fucking hint, I guess.
Something,
hey, like,
I guess.
This boy, I like Makoto, I really do, but God is he dense.
He's a stupid boy, but we love him. He's our stupid boy,
and he's gonna save the day.
Yeah. But I will also say, though, that it is listed in her wiki entry, so it's probably pretty common knowledge and part of her lore that part of her own despair for herself is that despite how well she prepared for everything and how she says that despair is this unpredictable, like, thing, she herself has become predictable in her plan and, like, her quest for it.
So, yeah, you know? So it's a
that she herself has become predictable and therefore has also failed her own plan. So when she does finally fail at the end, she's overcome with the ultimate despair, which she's also cool with because obviously
she fucking has an orgasm right there. I'm like, what the fuck?
Just to ring it back around to what Jer said,
Why? That just proves that you were just fucking wrong. Why would you do that? Like,
it's just also pointless.
It literally boils down. You're bored, and it became all this death and all this murdering in this entire scenario. You destroyed the world because you were bored, and everything was pointless. That is not a good motive. You cannot convince me otherwise. Literally, that's like the equivalent of like, oh, it's like, why did Hitler kill all the Jews? Because he was bored. Not because he was like that probably would get us flagged by YouTube real quick. Dylan, can you edit that?
You know what we're trying to say. We don't need to go in. We don't need to go in depth.
That so we don't get fucked.
I don't think we'll get fucked by that. But honestly, I don't think we really need to compare Junko to Hitler.
Well, no, it's the motivation thing, because that's just
it's. Again, the explanation is there for her motivation, like I've already said. It's just that it's not a good one. How she carried her plan out and how she moved forward and how things like happened the way she predicted, I think all that is fine.
Why did Thanos collect all the Infinity Stones? Because he was bored one day and he wanted to wipe out half the universe.
It's like, you think about her plan as a whole, and like, it's all pretty good. Right? And it all plays out the way that she predicted. It's just foiled last minute by our hero. You know, silly little Makoto and his funny little cow lick. Haha. His funny hair. Hope. And his squeaky voice. And him saying hope a couple times. And boom, your plan went right out the window, girly. And that sucks.
Time to kill myself.
It's just... It's almost like they had a great idea for how she could have, like, pulled it all together. And then after they were done, they were like, oh, man... time to get the game in development. And they were like, so why did she do all this again? And all the writers just kind of looked at each other collectively and shrugged and went, shit, I don't know. And they were like, well, why are you guys making the game? And they're like, oh, dude, because we were bored one day and we came up with an idea to make a game. And he's like, fuck it, she was bored one day and she came up with the idea to plunge the world into despair.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And that's just what it became. And then in like later stuff, they tried to maybe explain it, or like in rewrites or something. I don't know.
It gets retconned.
Obviously, to oblivion. That's all speculation.
It gets retconned to oblivion because, like in like the anime, this is like she had like a deeper meaning behind all this, like for all like the despair in general and stuff like that.
Not really. It explains how she managed to get a bunch of people behind her. She used the Ultimate Animator. The Ultimate Animator dude basically explained to her, like, Hayao Miyazaki films and shit like that have this, like, subconscious, like, hypnotism in the, like, animation.
Right.
That makes you, like, feel emotional and this and that. And Junko was like, oh my god, really? And he's like, yeah, so I incorporated it into my own personal work because I'm the Ultimate Animator and I want to be the greatest animator ever. And Junko was like, wow, let me see your films. And then she watched them and she was like, oh my god, this is like the greatest thing I've ever watched in my entire life. And then she grabbed him by the shoulders and pulled him in and she was like, you should make a movie for me. And he's like, oh, should I? And she's like, yeah, I'll show you all the stuff you need to make it and what I've got my idea for. And he's like, okay, cool. And then the next thing you know, he's made a movie that subconsciously hypnotizes people into murdering each other. And that's what she used to create the Ultimate Despairs out of the Danganronpa 2 cast.
Yeah.
And Ultimate Animator Boy was just kind of like, wow, so I kind of just helped her take over the whole world, huh? That sucks.
I really screwed the pooch on this one.
Yeah, he's like, oof, that's a big oof for me, my guy. And then he's like, maybe I should just get out of here for a little bit. And then he leaves.
Yeah, pretty much.
So,
but at the same time...
But, like, my whole point for that whole little skit is that the anime, like, explained a lot of that and, like, how her plan came to be. But her motivation behind it all, the boredom thing, not really. That didn't really change. So, they just kind of gave more explanation to her as a character
Junko
and
what a fucking
how she
hobby
did it.
Is.
Yeah. Yeah.
God.
I don't know, man.
It's in a premise where everything is super ridiculous with a robotic talking bear that can respawn infinite amount of times out of fucking nowhere, has a bomb. Let me finish. I find the fact that Junko did this all out of boredom is the most outlandish and nonsensical thing in this entire franchise.
Yeah. It's like, again, what I was saying earlier, I recognize that I'm playing an anime game.
Yeah.
Okay? I can suspend my disbelief for the robot talking bomb bear.
Not even anime pulls this bullshit.
Again, I'm like, I can suspend my disbelief to believe the bear and the killing game and the we are superhumanly good at our talent type stuff for a high schooler. Like, I can suspend my disbelief to believe all that.
Like, and even
your ultimate goal is to cause despair in the entire world. Okay, cool. I understand that in the context of this game.
Well, why?
You're doing it because you're bored. Even with all the reasoning and like how it fits well with her character and everything, and how it still ultimately failed in the end because that's what it was bound to do anyway, I was still just like, man, it just doesn't make any sense.
Because even in anime, they don't pull that card unless it's for something really stupid. Like, why would you hang up fresh leaf caught bass between the coastline? Oh, I was bored one day. It's for a comedic punchline. You use the because I was bored for a comedic punchline, not to be the be-all and end-all for your entire motive for your mass murdering villain that got a lot of people killed.
A lot of the anime that I have watched, and granted I watched most of the mainstream stuff because I'm not a big anime guy, so you know, flame me all you want, but most of the anime that I've watched, all the villains have understandable, sometimes outlandish, but still, like, believable motives.
Right.
None of it is out of boredom. Like, I think one of my favorite examples is Garo from Season 2 of One Punch Man.
Right.
He's a great villain. I fucking loved every moment he was on screen. He's cool as hell. His motivation, he's not so much a villain, more of like an anti-hero. Because his motivation is kind of like Stain, the hero killer from My Hero Academia, where he's just out to kill heroes because he thinks they're all fake and that none of them actually care. Because he grew up in like an area where he learned that from an early age, so he set out to be the hero killer who would be the hero that actually gives a shit and take down the heroes who don't.
Right.
And it was something to that regard. I haven't watched for a while, but I know that was essentially what it was. And I was like, man, this is like it connected me to him.
Right.
Because it's the whole idea of like never meet your heroes, right? And I was like, dude, this is just it's so strong, especially in today's age that it finally hit the dub, because I watched it after like all the shit in the Smash community happened last year, and I was just like, it helps you connect. Well, I wouldn't say idol, but he was someone that I watched a lot during the day. But like, it helps you connect with them, because villains are they're not just villains. You know, good writing does not Saturday morning villain you and just give you a guy who's evil just because he's evil. He's the villain. He doesn't need a reason to be the villain.
Saturday morning villains are good because they're incompetent. They're funny most of the time.
Yeah,
like, think of Skeletor.
They're meant to be fun.
Like Skeletor.
Exactly. And even the reboots, like the Darker He-Man reboot that came out in like 2007 or 2003 or whenever it was, that Skeletor was scary, and he had an actual fucking reason for being Skeletor.
Right.
He wasn't just Skeletor.
Right.
The evil being from down the street.
I'm gonna go steal this
modern day villains. Exactly. Modern day villains in modern day stories are good because they are real.
Right.
They're written well. They have motivations and character traits that you can connect with.
Like example.
Because they're not... Exactly. They're not just villains. They are another character in your story.
Right.
They are meant to be connected with. They're not meant to be looked up to. They're not meant to be, like, rooted for entirely. Right. Like, I'm looking at, like, the fucking, like, Joker movie. Yeah. People straight up were like, oh, hell yeah. And I was like, nah, you're not supposed to worship him. That's the whole point of the fucking movie.
Yeah, don't do that.
Same with Rick and Morty. Everyone is like, oh, dude, I'm just like Rick. And I'm like, yeah, that's not a good thing. Rick is an awful fucking person.
Yeah.
He's a great character, because he's extremely flawed, and that's why he is a great character. That's why you can connect with him, is because he has flaws, because he's not a great person. And we all know someone who is like Rick. Maybe you're the person who's like Rick, and that sucks because, again, he's a shitty fucking person.
Wow, Dylan really cast out on me. Fuck.
That doesn't mean that there's lost hope for you. I mean, again...
Wow, are you really rubbing it in? I'm just kidding.
But I mean, to take it back to my original point, that's why they are good characters, and that's why they're well written. I mean, haha, Rick and Morty, funny. Yeah, I know. Show is actually good. Alright? Suck a dick. I don't give a shit. Alright? Rick and Morty's a good fucking show. The characters are all great.
And base is another thing, but that's an entirely different discussion.
Base in another thing, yeah, but... My whole point is that Junko does not have these qualities. She feels more on the scale towards Saturday morning cartoon villain than she does a true, well-written villain.
When I ask...
If you like her, that's fine.
It's fine to like her.
You're allowed to like her.
As someone who speaks as the biggest Tsumugi simp, it's fine to like awful garbage.
It's okay to like Junko, even though she's not a well-written character. Right. It's okay. None of the masterminds in this series are well-written.
Right.
Junko is a solid one, yes, but she has glaring flaws. Right. And what's not okay is to attack other people for recognizing those flaws just because you don't want to.
Right. By the way, if you type in your hate comments before reaching to this part, shame on you. Shame.
Shame. Shame.
Yeah.
No, I think I've said my piece. I didn't want to spend this whole video just bashing on Junko, because there are good things about her, and there are things I like about her. The problems with her character make it really hard for me to enjoy her.
Right.
And maybe that's clearly not the same for other people, and that's fine.
That's fine.
You're allowed to like those things. Maybe you don't look into things as deep as I do, but I'm a writer, so I kind of can't ignore these things. They're just there. So if I catch them and they displease me, I can't ignore them.
Right. And I'm a little spoiled because I do watch a lot of anime, and let's just say Lelouch and Light Yagami have spoiled me on good anime villains, and Junko is not one of them. So when people say she's one of the best anime villains of all time, I can't help but laugh maniacally upon that statement. She's not a great... She's a serviceable villain at best. At worst, she's a mediocre villain.
She serves her purpose. She's just like the rest of Trigger Happy Havoc's cast, honestly. She's just a full mediocre good all across the board. Right. Even as far as being Mastermind. She's not super great. She's not the worst.
Right.
She does her job. And that's about it.
That's about it. My big thing is because I do versus debates as a pre-hobby, and whenever someone does masterminds and they put Junko Enoshima versus someone like Light Yagami, these people have no idea what they're talking about. Because comparing someone like mastermind-wise to people like the cold calculus, like, I'm gonna spoil a little bit of Death. No, it's not really spoiling Death Note right there. Light wants to become the new god, basically. He has the means and powers to do so. Yes, he's an egotistical Terminator prick that wants to exterminate all the bad in the entire world, but I still get his motive. It's just that he has a fucked up personality. He's going...
Well, because you're there with him at the beginning, too, and I haven't seen Death Note, but I know that he doesn't start off as, like, maniacal and evil as he ends up. He starts off good and, like, legitimately taking horrible people out.
Right in the beginning,
but the power goes to his head, and he starts to go down a bad path.
In the beginning of the series, he's a straight A honor student on his way to go into an Ivy League college, and he's going to follow in his father's footsteps in the criminal justice department. But he happens upon finding the Death Note that falls from the sky somewhere randomly on Earth. He picks it up, and the first thing he did, he read the rules. I'm like, this is some kind of prank, and he wrote someone's name out just as a joke, and it turned out to be a criminal robbing the scene at the same time. And then he dies of a heart attack, and then he kind of just goes like, you know what? I can become a new god because of this. I could get rid of all the evil in the world. I could start killing off serious criminals and shit like that. No, I'm not realizing that's kind of a bad thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah. It's... I think we've covered everything that we've wanted to talk about and make a point on. If you wanted our full, unadulterated, uncut thoughts, because I know we
have not
been
talked
talking
about how she died yet.
Yeah, we did.
Not into the detail that I wanted to.
I was gonna say we talked about her execution and how it's just kind of poor.
Well, not the execution, but moments leading up to it.
Oh, how she just decides to kill herself.
Literally, like, she was in a win-win situation no matter fucking what. She had the guns, she had the weapons, they couldn't leave. If she really wanted to prove a point about despair being the be-all to end-all, she should have just gunned them all down right then and there. After being like, we're not going to give in to hope. And she should have been like, oh, you don't think so? Well, too bad, the world needs despair, something like that. Gun them all down anyway. She was in an ultimate win-win situation. There was no conceivable way she'd lose. She actively chose to sabotage herself. Why? Fucking...
Actually, I will say, because of, the story bullshit, she wouldn't have been able to kill Makoto. Because he's the ultimate hope, and that's literally his whole thing, is that fate will always intervene. He will never be harmed by the ultimate despair.
I call bullshit on that. Lock him in a room where he cannot get food for several days. He will die of starvation. You can't.
Wow, plot hole.
Yeah, that's a very easy plot hole right there. Lock him in a barren room where he's not going to get food for several days. See what fate will do then.
Honestly, he'll still probably find a way.
Plot armor, fucking bullshit.
There's even a scene in Danganronpa 3 where Junko's like talking about how she's got everyone like pinned down, and then it's like while they're all screwing the metal plates over the windows before the killing game starts, when they're all like locking themselves down in Hope's Peak, Junko's talking to Mukuro, and she's like, I've got almost everyone figured out, except that Makoto guy. I can't get a read on him. And then she, like, hucks a fucking hammer at him, and right before the hammer hits him, he, like, slips on something wet on the floor and falls over, and the hammer sails right over his head. And Junko's just kind of like, see, like, every time I try to hurt him or do something weird like that, I always fucking mess up somehow. I don't know what's going on.
But that was introduced in the anime. It's a plot hole in the first game. Different thing.
It's not actually, because that happens when she tries to execute him too. Remember, with Alter Ego saving his ass?
Well, I know, but that explanation still comes from the anime, though. You could have just said Alter Ego just saved him.
Also true.
Right. The plot hole still stands. If you really wanted to prove that theory, lock him in a room for several days with no way to eat food or drink water. See what fucking fate does. It's like if suddenly the entire school explodes and he gets like infinite amount of food and water, then you can pull that bullshit card. Till then, you have not tested that theory. You could not pull that card in the first game. She was always in a win-win situation. She brought about her own demise through her own fucking hands because she's retarded. End of story. God, I hate that. I hate how she did that. Like, I would have been like, okay, what do we do now? Like, she can't, like, she got found guilty. Everyone voted for Hope. What do they do now? I'm like, okay, she has the remote, they can't leave, so how are they gonna get into the situation? Are they just gonna tackle her? Or something like that? No, she's gonna fucking kill herself. What the fuck, game?
Yeah.
Like, seriously? I'm like...
I didn't really get it either.
Like, oh my god, I have so much problems with that. It's like...
What does the wiki say, I wonder? Does it say, like, anything about why she chose to do that?
I know the explanation is going to be like, well, the only way that she's so addicted to despair, the only that she would feel the ultimate despair by seeing herself get executed. I'm like, that's still like, bruh, that is the most ultimate bruh moment that you could think of when you're like Junko. If you're this 12th level intellect that could predict everyone's future movements, do you not see realizing that killing yourself would actually give a lot of hope out? You're the ultimate despair. As far as everyone knows, you are the devil incarnate. You bring nothing but despair. Killing yourself would mean that you would give hope, which is the antithesis of what you are about.
It says that after the vote was settled, she was mad at first, and then she became delighted as she tasted her own despair for the first time. Or not for the first time, but for once. And I was like, yeah, I remember that. And then the wiki's like, she delightfully accepted her execution and death, but not before giving the remaining students the means to escape the academy.
So she was always in a win-win situation.
Yeah. And it's... I think the only reason she does it is because it just comes back to... It just comes back to her deal with them, where if they could solve all the mysteries and figure out who was behind it, then they won. Then again, and she had to, like, die or whatever.
She's proven that her word is jack shit because she killed Mukuro.
Yeah.
So why does she have to be honorable now when she was, like, more than capable to kill a colleague in a cohort in her own damn scheme, but, like, the people that she's trying to make them feel despair towards for the despair of the world, she's all of a sudden, oh yeah, you guys are totally trustworthy. I'm 100% trustworthy, and here, honor my word. No, she should have just gunned them down with the machine gun from the second fucking bathroom.
Jeez.
Yeah. I hate plot holes.
I don't know.
Plot holes. That's a big one.
Yeah. She, you know, like I said, she's just okay. Just like the rest of the cast for the most part.
Right.
She came in, she served her purpose, she was an okay first mastermind. So, yeah. I think we've summed up. We need to move on anyways. We're coming up on almost 2 hours now.
Right.
So, God, we were just talking about how well she was written. Impact.
I don't fucking care at this point.
Story-wise, her impact is very big, because even after she dies, kind of like we said... She's the
catalyst to start all of the shit. So, saying that she...
Yeah, everything continues forward from here. This is just the first killing game, if I remember correctly. It also
depends if you believe V3's ending or not as well, though, too. So...
Yeah. So... Either way, she just... Her impact was very massive in the world of Danganronpa. And outside of the games, too, because obviously she's a fan favorite. So... You know what's funny, though, is that she wasn't a fan favorite over in Japan.
Oh, yeah, no, it was Hina.
Yeah, it was Hina. Junko's a fan favorite over in the West, over here.
Apparently us in the Americas and the Europeans like our crazy bitches, I guess.
I think it's just goth culture.
Yeah, pretty much.
Everyone likes their big titty goth mommies.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Japan likes their big titty, dark skinned cinnamon rolls.
Yep. So. Alright. On to trivia. She actually has a pretty decent list. It's not as long as Monokuma's.
Duh.
But it's not much of a surprise, honestly. The name Junko means shield, Jun, and child, Ko. So her first name means shield child. And her surname, Enoshima, can literally mean island of the bay. Or it can refer to the island in the Kanagawa Prefecture. Huh. Don't know what that is, I won't lie.
Yeah, no, I do not take Japanese as a lesson.
According to Kazutaka Kodaka, Junko is the type of villain who has no sympathetic qualities nor tragic backstory to explain why she does what she does.
Okay.
Again, that just brings back to what I said. There's nothing to connect you to her.
Right.
She's literally just a force of chaos for no reason other than being a force of chaos.
I mean, even the Joker is afraid of the IRS. I mean, at least it's fucking something.
Well, like, the Joker even has a backstory, but that's, like, part of the charm of the Joker, too, is that the Joker doesn't know his backstory. Right. And he's had so many over the years, too, that it's like, who knows at this fucking point? It depends what comic you're reading. But either way, the Joker still does memorable, deplorable, inhumane shit.
Right.
He's a very good villain because he's in contrast to the Batman, who is a good character, who is outwardly not as
he's stoic.
Characterized.
He's stoic.
Yeah, he's very stoic. I feel like Joker is a good villain because he works in contrast with
the antithesis of Batman,
not on his own.
Batman is order, Joker is chaos.
Exactly. And I mean, you could make that same argument for Junko, but she doesn't have a Batman to be paired to unless you count Kyoko. But
it's not Makoto, let's be frank.
Yeah. It's like we said in the Kyoko episode, she's the protagonist of this fucking story, not
game
Makoto.
over when she dies, not when Makoto dies, when she dies.
Yup. So, in Danganronpa 3, it's revealed that similar to Izuru, her supernatural analytical skills caused her constant boredom. As a result, she developed an obsession with unpredictable despair.
Okay, someone who takes, who loves his who likes to analyze or predict things a lot. You do not get bored by simply finding things predictable.
Well, remember, she's supernaturally gifted with
12th level intellect bullshit retcon.
Because it's the heightened reality behind ultimates and the idea that you're supernaturally good at certain talents. Right. I mean, I can buy this. This is something I can relate to. Because, again, it's like if you could see the future. If you knew everything that was going to happen, you lose the excitement. It's like reading the end page of a book before you get to the ending. If you know how it all ends, you lose the excitement for it. So I can understand that.
Right,
but, again, this is something that gets explained in Danganronpa 3 in the anime. Ergo does not hold water here in Danganronpa 1 in our explanation and dissection of it. So, again...
like I just feel like I can hear Noah's like fucking head fuming right now because his entire thing is like it's franchises, so the franchise doesn't count. But what if Danganronpa 1 wasn't a success?
Exactly.
Yeah, so
I feel like if you have to come back to a sequel or a later piece of media to really explain something like this or build upon it to make it better, then it wasn't very strong to begin with. And a lot of people, of course, with what we said throughout this video, will probably argue certain things from the sequels, and, oh, it gets explained in this, it gets explained in that. Has always been there, it just doesn't get explained until this. Well, then it wasn't there in the beginning.
Why was it explained now?
Exactly. Like, if it needed to be waited to explained, or if it needed to be fixed in a later entry, then it wasn't that strong to begin with.
Right. That's called retconning.
Yeah. So. Fitting her unstable and changing personality, Junko has no listed likes or dislikes. I actually really like that. Yeah, I think that's really fun.
Touch, yeah.
That's a fun detail. Junko was one of the 2 characters to have gone through 2 executions, the other being Chiaki, through both of their second executions involved in their AI counterpart.
Alright, fair enough.
Because Chiaki goes through a different execution in the anime, the real Chiaki Nanami. You're gonna cry, Jer. It's
Dude, I don't get cry when I see my favorite character get killed. I get very mad. There's a difference.
Well, Chiaki's execution in Danganronpa 3 is very brutal.
Well, I kind of feel...
And it's very sad. Think like if Leon's execution was dragged out to like 20 minutes instead of just like a pure minute of death.
Fair enough. But
yeah.
I would kind of expect that because she's an AI in the second game, and if this is Danganronpa 3 that takes place in the past, she's gonna die. It's kind of obvious.
One of Junko's poses, where she puts her hand in front of her face, leaving only one eye visible, is the same of Dio from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, the Dio pose. Fuck off.
Yeah. In the Japanese version of Trigger Happy Havoc, she also says Dio's stand cry, Muda Muda Muda, during her bullet time battle.
Yeah. Yeah. You are not Dio. Just because it's JoJo.
I don't think it's that she's supposed to be Dio. I think it's just fun little references to another fun anime, which... Again, I don't have any problems with.
I love the reference. It's like...
The pose is not what bothered me. The personality switching between that and the several other ones she has under, like, the spans of a minute of playtime is what bothered me. The pose didn't bother me. The pose made me laugh, because I was like, ha! She do the funny JoJo pose. But, yeah. In her haughty queen personality, Junko's crown appears based on that of the King Slime from the Dragon Quest series. Notably, the first thing she says when she makes her appearance in the climax of the original Danganronpa is a direct quote of the Dragon Lord from the original Dragon Quest. Didn't know that. I have not played Dragon Quest.
Yeah, because we were not... Yeah,
I want to.
We were not even born yet when the original Dragon Quest came out.
Yeah. There was one that I played on, like, you know, back when, like, Walmart and Kmart used to have, like, games, like, promo games on, like, the TVs above the game cases with the little controllers wired to the wall. Right. There was a Dragon Quest at Kmart at Walmart a long time ago that I played the preview game for like that on their little TV. I don't know which one it was, and I had no fucking idea what I was doing because I was way too young. But I do know that it was Dragon Quest. Right. Because the title was very memorable to me, and it stuck with me pretty much my whole life. So, according to her profile in the official Danganronpa art book, Junko wears black panties with red trim near the waistband, semi-transparent sections at the hips, and an image of Monokuma's left eye on the front. They go unseen in the game proper due to Junko's role as the hidden mastermind of the killing game. Makoto is unable to have free time events with her.
You can't see it, but I'm making a face palm right now.
In the art book, I think it's funny that they had to, like, clarify what her underwear looks like since you never get an option or, like, the chance to actually get it. I just think that's kind of funny, honestly.
You're making me cringe, Dutch.
I'm cringing, Dutch. That's like one of my favorite things that Dustin says, dude. That shit makes me laugh every time I hear it.
God, Dylan, your trivia is making me cringe.
In the art book, Junko narrates her own student profile as herself, instead of the Monokuma persona. At the bottom of the page, the Monokuma room check, which normally shows details of the student's room in the academy, is replaced with a dot pattern section showing sprites of Junko's appearance in school mode that went unused. That's fun. Kind of want this art book now. Sounds like it's got a lot of cool shit.
It has also, the art book also has some of the unused executions, like Taka's and Hina's and Togami's.
Hell yeah, brother. In the Japanese version of Danganronpa 2, Junko references the series God of War by name. In the English version, this is changed to Kniferella, a reference to Bayonetta. Fun. I think I remember that Kniferella comment, too. That sounds familiar. In the Japanese version, Junko and her twin sister Mukuro are both voiced by Toyoguchi.
Yeah, we know this.
Same voice actress. Yeah, we saw that already. In the English version, Amanda Celine Miller and Aaron Fitzgerald both voice Junko, with each voice actor voicing different parts of Junko's personality. Yeah. Fitzgerald voices Teacher Junko, Monokuma Junko, and Model Junko. Miller and Fitzgerald also voice Shirokuma and Kurokuma, respectively, who are physical avatars for Alter Ego Junko. Miller and Fitzgerald also share the voice of Toko Fukawa, with Miller voicing Toko and Fitzgerald voicing Genocide Jill. And Psycho Kimura, Miller voices her as a child, and Fitzgerald voices her as a Hope's Peak student and future Foundation member. Oh, so those are both characters that they also share the voices of. Interesting. Junko was named the most popular game character for cosplay in the Guinness World Record Gamers Edition 2018.
Yeah, I kind of fucking figured.
This isn't listed in trivia, it's listed in her appearances in other media, but I'm going to read it anyways because I think this is interesting, and I did not know this. Junko appears as a playable skin in Crypt of the Necrodancer.
Yep, I know about that one, yep.
I did not know about that.
Oh yeah, Junko's in a lot of shit.
I have not played Crypt of the Necrodancer, but the music in that game is fucking tight.
It's a rhythm-based dungeon crawler.
Yeah, buddy. Well, that's it for the trivia, actually. So, that brings us to closing arguments. Jared, what are your final thoughts on Miss Junko Enoshima?
We have enough time in the day left.
Yeah, I think we've already said... Yeah. Well, just give us a quick summary of your overall thoughts.
My quick summary, okay.
Give us the TLDR.
God. Okay. quick overall summary of my thoughts right now. Leading up to the antics that Junko did to get to this point made no sense. It was nonsensical in the slightest. But her reveal, the build up to her reveal was great. It brought up a genuine mystery. It was just a shame that everything went downhill so fucking fast with her.
Yeah. Everything kind of falls apart because of her lack of motive or the ability to really connect with her as a character.
It's the lack of motive and the quirky personality switching.
I guess you could say, honestly, that the idea that you can't connect to her as a character and that she's just missing that integral part of a villain is kind of what makes her scary and interesting anyway. Is that she doesn't have that and she didn't need it to go and do all this, but she did it anyway.
I don't feel
it still loses it.
I don't feel threatened by her because she looks like a normal person and she's just doing all these quirky, wacky anime high school antics, and she's doing this all because she's bored, and you can't connect to anything about her. That doesn't make her threatening or scary in the slightest. I know
high schoolers who are feeling bored and quirky do not go out and, murder people. People in high school who go out and murder people oftentimes are feeling bullied and have a very terrible home life. So,
yeah.
Not to, really, compare that with, real life shit that is fucked up.
Yeah, but
you know, everything has a reason. Right. There's cause and effect. There is no cause behind Junko's effect. And that's just the biggest weakness of her character. Right. She has enough, if we take away the, examination of her, cause, honestly, I think she has enough else to really stand as a great character.
Right.
It's just the lack of ability to connect with her.
Right.
Or really,
And I'm not saying not everything has to have a human element to it. It's just that when you have a human character and you're based around people in the extremes,
that is all connected via the human element.
Yeah, let's be frank, murdering someone in a room that you're trapped with is very personal, and it's very humanly, emotionally attached to people. This is why people get very attached to these characters, and they're sad to see them go, or in some cases you're very happy to see them go because you really hate them. But
yeah.
But it's still a very human thing. Why do you do this? And when you answer people just why, because you did it because you were bored, it's not a good motive. It's not good writing. And
you lose a lot.
You lose a lot. You could literally doing something with it is better than doing nothing at all.
Yeah.
Right. I don't expect her design. I already got the hint that her motives were not grand in scope. When I first saw her, when she started doing personality switches, she could have done it for some mundane reason that made sense to her, but it could have been okay, I can see why you did this, but doing it because you were bored, really? Why
she was in it for the despair, which you
literally could have been I did it to say up your society. And I would have been fine with that. Literally, I would have been 100% okay with that.
There could have been zero explanation behind that, and it would have been a better reason than what she has.
Why did you do this? Because fuck Ultimates. I'll be okay. I get.
Match it with her analytical skills. Society is boring and predictable, and we're all going to stay on this path until society as we know it crumbles. Whereas we could just destroy it now and try and build something better for the future.
Right.
Or she could just say, fuck society in general, let's just burn it all down and go back to living in chaos the way humanity was meant to.
Yeah.
It all still would have been better than just saying, I was bored.
Yeah. Because that's the equivalent of saying nothing at all.
And there are people out there who feel like that.
Right. Like, the Joker is... I keep bringing up the Joker because I feel like it's, like, the greatest counterpoint to this. Because the Joker is an insane character that's the embodiment of chaos, which Junko is basically the embodiment of chaos. It's just replaced with the word despair in this series. And...
Yeah.
He does things for a reason. He is the antithesis of society. He is the lowest of the low. He is the person who has the one bad day. He is the antithesis of people who have just had one bad day, and they just want to see everything burn down to the ground. We all had those bad days, right? Where we just said, fuck work, I want to burn this place down to the ground and see it all burn in a giant blazing fit of hellfire. We had those thoughts. You've all worked in places like that before. It's just that the Joker is the embodiment of that, just how, like, Batman is the embodiment of just order in general. Junko does not have that going for her.
Yeah. It's part of character writing, is you need to know who this character is, and if you're going to make them your villain, then you need to know why they're doing it.
Yeah.
Because it is such an important part of how you write them, and how they make their decisions, and how they carry their plan forward. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have that, even if you know how they carry their plan forward, and even if you have everything else down, you lose so much important stuff for your villain when you don't include that kind of stuff.
It's like the same thing with Kamakura. Yeah, we don't get to see shit about Kamakura, but I understand his motives and stuff like that. I just wish we had a face and a character to put to.
He was literally a god in this universe, and he was so bored of everything that he took a chance on Junko in despair and said, hey, maybe it'll be fun. Maybe it'll bring something interesting to the table.
And that's saying something, because he's literally like, okay, he's like the embodiment of perfection. He is like God himself. So he wants to do something fun, and that's a human moment, because we all have those moments where
that's why he goes along with her in the anime. That's how she convinces him, because he doesn't care enough, nor does he show any interest when she comes to him at first. He nearly kills her the first time they meet. But she gives him this talk about how despair is great and how the chaos brings, like, enjoyment. And he's so bored with everything already, and that's how she tries to relate to him, is because she's like, I'm bored too. But if we can throw the world into despair and chaos, then maybe it'll bring something fun to the table for us. And Kamakura just kind of like, I'm listening, you know?
Right.
But he's still, even though, like, things happened... he was still just kind of, like, indifferent, and he was just waiting for something to happen. And when nothing finally happened, he was just kind of like, all right, whatever. And then he just peaced out.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. I think we've become broken records at this point.
Right. It's just,
so,
like, it's literally of the meme, we were on the verge of greatness. We were this close. All you had to do was give her at least some sort of solid motive. Just imagine that if, like, Junko was literally having that entire talk.
I mean, again, it didn't even have to be solid. It just had to be something.
Yeah, it had to be something. Because if she literally just said, crack down and, like, you know what, fuck society and their ultimates, because everyone craves perfection, it's not that, like, then they could have been like, okay. Like, imagine if Junko said, like, if society wants these ultimate people to succeed, everyone's going to end up being perfectionists of everything, and where's the fun in that? And I would have been like, you know what, I'm onto your jib, Junko. You're doing this the wrong way, but I'm onto your jib.
Because it's something.
Yeah, it's something. Like, who wants to...
It's something that it doesn't even have to be something that helps you connect to her. But as long as it's something that kind of explains why.
Why.
It gives you, like, a reasoning that you can, like, understand.
Right.
Even if you know they're wrong, you can still look at them and be like, okay, I see where you're coming from. You're wrong, but I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So.
And when you say, I did it because I was bored, there was like, really? Not only are you wrong, you're stupid.
Okay. We're just going in circles now. So, let's move on to the rating. This is going to be different than normal rating because she's a mastermind. So, mastermind ratings, what we're going to do is that for the main series, they're just going to get ranked out of, like, 1 to 3. because there's 3 masterminds. So I'm just gonna... I don't know.
Number 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say number 2, which might be a little biased because we like Tsumugi more.
Right.
She's not that much stronger than Junko is. I think from writing elements, like actual like written character standpoints, I think she's a little stronger. And I do enjoy her personality, what little of it is there. But yeah. Well, I'll put her at number 2.
Because it's easy to identify number 3, and it's just it's Kamakura, bar none. Kamakura is easy number 3 because let's face it, we know about your plan, but who are you, dude?
Yeah,
we hear all. It's literally like the worst advice you could give to someone with Kamakura is the show don't tell. He is nothing but tell.
Yeah. He doesn't have enough show. He has, like... There's a moment where you're doing the non-stop debate, and you, like, go into Hajime's mind, and, like, the whole, like, trial room is filled with Izuru Kamakuras. And that's all you get to see of him. And it lasts, like, as long as you hit the right answer, it lasts maybe, like, 30 seconds.
Right.
So... Yeah.
And then after that, it's like, okay, who's the better mastermind, Tsumugi or Junko? Well, we have one psychotic crazy bitch with personality hopping, and then we have the other psychotic bitch who does cosplay, but at least she has a motive.
Yeah. So that's our mastermind rating. She's ranked number 2 out of the 3. We've already kind of talked the other mastermind ratings just because they're so obvious, but... Just to keep things going regularly, Jer, what would you rank Junko with a normal negative 10 to 10 rating?
A negative 3.
Negative 3, huh?
Yep. I mean, her reveal is great, but I cannot stand the personality hopping. It's when you do things because quirky, it's not good enough. It's just not good enough in a writing standpoint. People could be quirky, but they don't have to be annoying. People are just annoying because they're annoying. People, like a good example, Deku. Deku's kind of quirky. He's not annoying. Yeah. Like, people could be quirky and have their own little quirks about them, but you're making a character based on being quirky because they're quirky is not a good writing standpoint.
Yeah.
So when I say quirky, like quirky, I'm doing jazz hands, so...
That's pretty mean compared to what I was going to give her.
Or were you going to give her a 6?
I was going to give her a 5 out of 10.
Oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm brutal.
Again, you know, like I said, she has her flaws that we've gone over already, but aside from, like, the lack of motive and a couple other, like, small things, she's still a pretty solid character. She's pretty in line with the rest of Trigger Happy Havoc. She's just all around good. There's just, like a lot of these other characters, there's always something that she's weak with, and it just so happens, being the mastermind, that a lot of her weaknesses are on a greater scale compared to everyone else. And that's really rough for her. This puts her on the same rating as Chihiro. We both rated a 5 out of 10, and I think it was just because there's not enough to his character. He's only really around for the first, 2 chapters? And then chapter 2 is the only time he's really important.
And then that raises a death flag and then dies.
Yeah. But he's good at doing what he's doing while he's around.
And then,
so we rated him a 5. He's just kind of below the average, but he's still fine. And that's kind of what I'm going to rate Junko. Just because I think that's fair, that she's still pretty solid, but what she lacks compared to the rest of the cast is a lot more important for her as mastermind. So I'm going to cut the rating below average just a little bit at a 5 out of 10.
But so, I'm a little bit more brutal and a little more brutal with my characters, so...
You're a lot more unforgiving.
Definitely.
I was right there with you, honestly, when I first finished Trigger Happy Havoc. I fucking hated Junko. I didn't see any redeeming qualities in her character, but over time, as I've gone on and talked to more people, I was like, no, she's got some good stuff, especially after watching other people replay through it recently, too. I've been like, alright, she's got some good stuff going on. She's got some real weaknesses, and I can't pinpoint what it is. And I think I finally, before we started recording, I think I finally realized that it's just, everything we talked about pretty much.
Yeah. For me,
she's got the little things that she's missing, but those are passable. Yeah. They're things that everyone else is missing.
Yeah, those weaknesses are really holding me back because I love me a good villain. I like my villains more than I like our protagonists, dude.
A lot of the time, most people do, honestly. So,
like, you get a good villain, you can hook me in. That's why I got suckered into Legend of Korra, because Amon was a good fucking villain, dude.
Dude, all the villains in Legend of Korra are fucking solid.
No, I'm not a big fan of Super Saiyan.
Oh wait, no. Who was the one in the middle? There was there was
guy, yeah.
Yeah, there was the evil airbender and his friends. Those guys were cool.
Yeah.
There was someone else that I didn't like.
There was I don't remember. It's been so long since I watched Korra.
Maybe it was the last villain. I can't remember.
Oh, you mean the gigantic mech suit person?
Yeah, the metal bender chick. Maybe that's who I'm thinking of. Because the only other villain I can remember is Korra's uncle, and his whole goal was to, like, open the spirit realm.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want, like, mankind and the spirits to, like, live separately.
And then suddenly
anymore.
It turns into Power Rangers, and you're like, what the fuck is going...
He was also like, the world has moved on from the Avatar, and we don't need it anymore. And then he just tried to straight up murder Korra and, like, stop the Avatar line so that a new Avatar wouldn't show up. And I was like, damn, this is really fucking dark and twisted.
And then a gigantic Kamehameha comes out of nowhere, and you're like, what the fuck? Spirit energy! We have really gone off the deep rail on this one.
No, I think most of Korra is pretty solid. I don't think I've even seen the last season, actually. But, yeah. I think that's all pretty solid. We did it, Jer. We're done with Trigger Happy Havoc.
Oh boy, that means we could actually go to the fun games. I'm kidding.
We finally covered Junko.
We forgot the best part about the game, though.
What?
The react mechanic.
Yo, dude. You mean the mechanic that is extremely pointless and just made me a little irritated every time it happened, that didn't make it back into future games for obvious reasons?
Exactly.
You mean that mechanic? Dang, dude. That was my favorite mechanic.
I completely forgot about that until I realized, did we really talk about it? No, we didn't talk about that.
we probably mentioned it early episodes of the fucking podcast, but I don't think we really talked about it that much, no? Christ. You know what we did forget to do, though? We forgot to rate Monokuma. And I already know what the ratings are, but, yeah, 10 out of 10, dude.
If you're thinking we're going to rate Monokuma other than a 10, we're going to rate him as a negative 10, because he's just that fucking funny.
Yeah. He's a great character.
Here, we'll just split it down the middle. The white part is 10, and the black part's negative 10. How about that? Perfect as everything should be. Oh,
hell yeah, dude. Perfectly balanced.
All things should be.
God. Yeah, and he will be getting different ratings, possibly the same ratings in future episodes, because we're going to cover Monokuma in each game, because as consistent as he is still technically different in each game. Right. And each Monokuma does have some distinct differences that don't carry between the other games. Mm-hmm. It's just the core of, like, his character stays the same, which I'm glad. Because, you know, keep the core the same, but just give him new little things. Yes. Like, a lot of his recurring humor in the second game is, like, video game stuff. Which fits, because they're in a game. And a lot of his recurring jokes in V3 is him being a dad, which fits, because the Cubs are there, and they're also entertaining.
So I don't know why people don't like the Cubs. So I'm like, well, they're there. Just
when I went into V3, Jer was telling me that no one liked the Cubs, and then I was gearing up to not like them either. And as soon as they started speaking, I was like, well, I like them so far. And then by the time I was done with V3, I was like, dude, I fucking love these guys. I had zero problem with the Cubs.
Yeah.
They even parodied the fucking Kyo incest thing between Monotaro and Monofani.
And that wasn't just as fucked up.
It was just as weird, but it was funny at least, and I was still on board for it. I was like, oh, heck yeah.
Weird.
Those two were my favorite Cubs, too. I was like, oh, well, I'm glad my two favorite Cubs made it to the end. And then they were...
thought Mew, when Monotaro called Mew her mom, his mommy, and then Mew...
Oh, yeah.
That came out a lot of fan art where it was like Kibo and Mew as the mom and the dad and Monotaro as a kid. There's a lot of fan art about that, let me tell you what.
God. God. Danganronpa was a mistake. Take it back.
Literally like looking at, like, you were the cause of all this and pointing at Monokuma.
You did this to us. God, I love the little bastard, though. Alright, well. That about wraps us up here.
Right.
I still don't know what we're gonna do. There's definitely gonna be a few more episodes, just kind of chilling before we start Danganronpa 2. I want to get a bunch of the boys on, like Joey and Noah. I want to get enough people on that we can do like at least like a 2-on-2 Danganronpa Jeopardy with me hosting.
Right. I was always gonna say we could do a rebuttal showdown with fucking me and Noah about Zero Escape for the first game.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll figure something out. I definitely want to do Danganronpa Jeopardy. That might not be the next episode, but it might be one of the next before we do Danganronpa 2.
Right.
So, expect at least like 3 off topics before we start Danganronpa 2. It's gonna be a fun time. I mean, there might be weeks in between those two because life gets in the way. That and I kind of want to just take a bit of a break too. It's been nice taking these last weeks off, but I've been wanting to do the podcast, and now that we're done with Trigger Happy Havoc, at least I kind of feel like I need a break from this too.
Right.
Because I'm still burnt out on video making, man.
3 more weeks. 3 more weeks, and I'll be back.
3 more weeks. We'll have more consistent videos being pumped out in just over 3 weeks.
I am the same.
Because it's going to take him time to get set up and get us recorded.
I am the guy who finds enjoyment by listening to the same song for an hour long. So I can get it done.
I do too. It's just that I've been the only one making videos for the past like months and months.
Well, this is what happens when my chronic bad luck with technology comes into play.
Yeah. Well, that's it today, boys.
It was a long one.
It was a long one. We're coming up on 2.5 hours here.
Right.
So.
Leave your mean comments down below on how much we suck for having our opinions invalidated because we don't like Junko Enoshima. And
remember, you're on the internet, and things that you say have 0 consequence.
Right. And make sure to kiss your mother on the lips on the way out. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.